Welcome to a windswept Geelong where the stakes are high as Sydney host West Coast on the neutral territory of Kardinia Park. The Eagles were embarrassed last week at an empty Perth Stadium and need to answer some questions if they're to maintain their standing as a premiership threat, while Sydney sit one spot above West Coast. But the Swans have lost their past two matches and they've got finals contenders lining up in just behind them outside the 8. The Swans have good history here. They've won 4 of their past 5, but West Coast hasn't won here since 2006. And the 3 Eagles players playing today who have won here were all playing for Geelong at the time. James Rowbottom and Jack Petruccelli are the 2 subs this afternoon for each side. There are no late changes as the Swans meet West Coast in Geelong. Joel Peterson with you on Grandstand AFL. Great to have your company on ABC Radio, ABC News Radio and through ABC Sports Digital. A big day of football to close out round 16. Calling alongside me this afternoon is Andrew Mays. Maysy, you've made it down the highway without being blown off the road. Well done. Good start to the day.
Just very windy conditions here. I was almost blown over in the car park when I got out. It is very blustery at ground level, so it's going to be interesting to see the skill level of both of these sides. Sydney can be a no-fuss team as well, the way they go about it, whereas we know West Coast like to kick and catch. So 2 very contrasting game styles. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out this afternoon in what is now a crucial game. It's probably the most important game of today.
Yeah, absolutely it is. So 6th and 7th on the ladder as they came into the round, both 8 and 6. West Coast losing heavily last week to the Bulldogs. The Swans have lost their past 2. We're in good hands in terms of experts on Grandstand AFL this afternoon. St Kilda Hall of Famer and 300-game champion Nathan Burke is with us. G'day, Burkie.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Yes, very interesting. Who would have thought we'd be watching Sydney and West Coast down in Geelong? But here we are, and to be honest, I'm quite happy to be here because both these sides, 2 and 3 records over the last 5 games, not setting the world on fire, but now's the time where they need to start to get their act together. And which one of them can get their act together in the last third of this season?
And alongside Nathan Burke this afternoon, AFL Hall of Famer David Parkin. Parko, as Burkie said, they've fluctuated in their form recently, these 2 sides, especially the Eagles. We may know a bit more about their chances in September at the end of today.
So, yeah, thank you. I had the same problem coming down the highway. The cars kept changing lanes, I think, not because they wanted to, because the wind took them. So it was an adventurous drive, I'd have to say, to Geelong. And I'm not sure, looking at the ground, how protected it is from the wind. The trees on the northern side are just bent over at the moment. So I think for both teams, and this is, as you've made the point, an essential win, you would have thought, in terms of their season. They both struggled in the last few weeks. They're both on 8 wins and 6 losses. Not much difference in the percentage. 106 at Swans and Eagles 102. And they both have in the next couple of weeks opponents GWS and Western Bulldogs for the Swans, and for the Eagles, Melbourne and Brisbane. They're 2 quite difficult, I would have thought, games ahead for them. So they'd be looking for this one to put it in the bag. I think they both, in terms of their season, would want this one to assist the long term of 2021. For me, it'll be a fascinating game between 2 teams who play, as you suggested, with very, very different methods.
So Sydney 6, 32 premiership points, a percentage of 106.6 coming in. West Coast 7, 32 points, 102.6. You've got GWS on 30 points winners yesterday in 8th, and Richmond and Fremantle both with 28 points just outside the 8, lurking with intent. Now, of course, Andrew Gaff was taken out of the West Coast side yesterday due to a hand injury, so Luke Edwards was his replacement from the side that they named on Friday, but there's no late changes for today's game, and as we said, Jack Petruccelli is the sub for West Coast, James Rowbottom is the sub for Sydney, the young midfielder. There is just to give you a bit of context, there is a severe weather warning in place for damaging winds for some of the coastal regions around Geelong today. So that's why we've made mention of the fact that it is a very, very blustery day down here at Kardinia Park. On the broadcast side of the ground, it's relatively protected, but out on the Hickey stand side and at the northern end, the wind is certainly ripping down the ground, and it looks like it's going down toward the players' stand or the Barwon River end, which might have an impact on proceedings throughout the afternoon. About 2 minutes away from the opening bounce. So Parko and Berkey, tell us what we might be able to expect this afternoon. I mean, there's questions aplenty about both sides, Berkey, especially West Coast after last week being demoralised by the Dogs over at Perth Stadium. They've got a fair bit riding on this outcome, you feel, the Eagles?
Yeah, they certainly do. 55-point loss. If you're a prospective finalist, you don't want to lose by 55 points to another finalist. And interesting ins for the West Coast. Quite often they look like the land of the Giants, but they've brought Vardy into that team that already has Allen and Nat Nui and Darling and Kennedy, and down back you've got McGovern and Barrass. And I'm not sure whether these really blustery conditions are going to play into the hands of big, tall players, and that sort of makes me look at the smaller midfield of the Sydney Swans and the way that they play the game in a more of a no-fuss style of play, get the ball forward quickly. That's going to suit these conditions a little bit better. So the introduction of Vardy really perplexes me a little bit, considering that the Sydney Swans aren't an overly tall team. Whether they think they can get an advantage over Sydney, a lot will come down to Tom Hickey, who I think is in probably career best form. We know he's been at the Saints and he's been at West Coast. He's been all around the place, but playing some really, really good football at the moment. So Tom Hickey has got a huge job today against this very tall West Coast team.
I think I agree with you. Gaff, in the circumstances, in their structure and what they need, is the perfect player, I would have thought, for these conditions. So losing him is a major factor, I would have thought, in playing this game. And I'm surprised. I mean, Sydney's back half is not tall, very capable, and maybe they were hoping for good conditions and going to exploit that. It may have paid a toll, I think, in terms of where they want to go and how they're going to get there. This could be, because of what you suggested, two significantly different ways of trying to use the ball. I think Geelong's method of short, etc., in these conditions, they'll need to be right on top of their game in terms of their disposal if they're going to win and hold possession the way they want to in these particular conditions. I think it might be a fascinating game we're going to watch this afternoon.
Outcome will be very interesting. Who wins at Parko?
I think Sydney. I don't know why. I've got no good valid reason for saying it. I've just got a gut feeling that Sydney a little bit more tenacious, I think, in their makeup.
Berkey?
Sydney.
So the Swans and the Eagles, so much riding on this contest at Cardinia Park, of all places. How very 2021 on Grandstand AFL. Here's Andrew Mays.
Hickey v Nat Nui in the ruck, and we're going to have a reset, an anti-climax to start this one down in Geelong.
I can't believe they didn't give it to the other bloke as the best bouncer we've ever seen in the game, so they give it to a bloke who can't get it up in the first place.
A few flags went up on the outer side there, and they didn't have to wave them at all. It is very blustery down below. Hickey from the restart almost got over the top of Shuey. Ball spills free of that pack. Now back in amongst the scrimmage is Yo. He's tackled immediately. And a ball up will ensue.
Interesting thing about modern football, like Josh Kennedy starts on the bench.
Yep.
You think you'd want him in there in the middle. Start the game, Parker.
First clearance to Sheed, kicks to left half forward. Nice mark taken by Darling. He swings around. He's about 60 from goal. Puts it into the forward pocket. Allen is his target, almost over his head. Allen did well to keep it in. Then snaps from the boundary line. Bouncing ball, awkward one there for Florin, and almost nutmegged him. Went straight across the face and out of bounds for a throw in the right forward pocket for the Eagles.
This is what happened yesterday. Looking at the ground, and here are 36 players in 1/6 of the ground. It's great football to watch, isn't it?
Eagles kicking to the players stand in to open us up. Darling takes it out of the ruck, flicks the handball over his head toward the boundary line. The Swans players appeal for deliberate. They won't get it. It'll be tossed back in again, still in the right forward pocket.
Nate, do you know much about the surface here? That looks terrific, but I'm not sure that's going to be easy.
I think it's struggling a little bit was the call from the Geelong players the other night. Not as good as it normally is.
Hickey reaches over the top to Parker, to Hewitt. Almost turned it over now. Kelly for the Eagles has a go. Kicks toward full forward. Slipping over at the crucial moment was Langdon. It let Cunningham away for the Swans, who kicks out toward the Hickey stand side. Shepherd gets back there for West Coast. Beats Franklin to the footy. Handball to Barris, who kicks up the Hickey stand wing. Kennedy stretches in front of McCartan, but the Geelong product does enough to get a fist in and knock it out of play. And we'll have a throw in centre of the outer wing. 2 minutes played. Sydney and West Coast yet to score.
Parker and Yo standing next to each other at this stoppage. Hickey trails Nat Nui. Just got the outside of his palm to that one. Parker front and centre at best, but he's pushed off his kick. It spills off the side of his boot for another ball in.
The Heaney-Sheed contest between those two are tenacious and talented. I'm looking forward to that.
Ball will be thrown back into play. Hickey and Nat Nui. Another ruck contest. That one fell short. Nat Nui had it ripped out of his arms by Hewitt. Hand pass to Hickey. Hand pass looking for Heaney. He forces a quick kick forward. Mark spilled by Hearn, who was unmatched. Haywood. Hand pass to Franklin, who's 60 from goal. It's a centering ball. It's awkward but effective. It gets to Cunningham, who's 40 out, kicks into the man. That was Shepherd running across. Crucial smother. Hand pass to Langdon, swung 360. Hand pass to Sheed, who snaps out of the immediate danger, only as far as Dawson for the Swans. He hand passes to Lloyd off his left boot, right to the hot spot. Good mark by Barris. Over the top, soared over two Swans, and he takes the relieving defensive mark 20 from his own goal.
Hands off to Shuey, hands off to Hearn inside the defensive 50, exits toward the interchange. Allen goes up, can't pull it in. McCartan with a hand in there for the Swans. Lloyd a handball defensively, had to run back onto his own footy. Got a Shepherd from Rampy, shared it with McInerney by hand, now to Mills, handball along the boundary line to McInerney. The look away to Florent was superb. Florent kicks inside the 50, looking for Franklin. It'll get out the back of the pack, and Amadi will run onto it for Sydney and kick the opener for the Swans. McGovern and Barras collided, and it was Joel Amadi out the back to open proceedings up with a major score. Sydney won straight. West Coast yet to score through 4 minutes of the opening term.
You called it here. McInerney's hand pass under the frontal pressure that he had, it came out like a rocket into the pathway of his teammate, and the goal it was in resulted fantastic handling.
Just looking, there's no flags actually around this ground, but when the goal umpire did stick up his two flags to signal that goal, they was flowing the Sydney direction, actually, so it's a bit blustery, but going by the goal umpire's flags, and certainly the kick that went over the top of the pack certainly carried a fair bit of distance, so if anything, I'd say Sydney may have a slight advantage with the wind.
There used to be flags on top of the forward stand.
She's cut them all down.
They've all gone. So it's hard to get an indication from up here in the commentary box. From the stoppage in the middle, Florent at the back of the pack gets the kick forward to left half forward. Haywood had it spoiled away from him. Now a chance in the long sleeves today, Papley. He sees it over for a boundary throw and in between wing and half forward. Calling Geelong games here, of course, Maisie, we're used to seeing the flags on the Hickey stand. But they're the Geelong Premiership flags, and they didn't want to put them up today. And you normally get a couple on top of the Gary Ablett Terrace, but there's none there either, so it's a bit hard to tell. Nat Nui grabs it out of the ruck on centre wing, gave it to Kelly. He was taken in a strong tackle. Good tap to advantage by Shuey. Got it to Duggan, who forced it forward, right half forward. Nice contest there by Darling. A hand pass to Cripps, who kicked inside 50. No mark taken by Allen. Now a chance for the Swans. Running across his defensive goal line is McInerney. Short pass is okay. He finds Lloyd. Precise enough. Lloyd's got it. Hand pass to the running McInerney, who came scooting past him. Still inside the defensive 50 for the Swans. They lead by a kick early stages. Fox. Handball over the top to Cunningham, who kicks down the Hickey stand wing. Franklin and Wicks almost ran into each other, and it spilt the Eagles' way. Hearn a handball into the centre of Cardinia Park now for Dom Sheed, who gets on the left boot, goes inside the 50, looks for Shuey. Lloyd stood in front, couldn't take the mark for the Swans, spills to turf. Hewitt takes it for Sydney, up and down the mine shaft to Mills at centre half back. Got it away to Kennedy, to Papley, who stretches, can't mark. Shepherd right there with him. Sheed run down by Kennedy, holding the ball. Hesitated at the critical moment. Free kick to the Swans, just defensive side of centre.
Sorry, Joel. I think we're underestimating the slipperiness of the ground and the slipperiness of the ball. I think that's a combined difficulty for all players.
Centering kick to Rampy, who'll go long with his left boot. Out in front of Dawson. Ball bounces high. He hand passes backwards, which was a good choice to Cunningham, who enters 50 with his kick. Franklin, had a couple of metres and he dropped a sitter as well. You don't often see that. Papley, he's ripped off the ball before he could get boot to it. Now a chance for Wicks. Gets it to the advantage of Dawson. Surely taken high he was. Free kick to be taken from 50 out. He's got a long left boot too, so if there is any hint of a breeze behind him, he's half a chance here. A little bit of rain just floating across the ground as well. Light drizzle, we'll call it at least. Not expecting a lot this afternoon, but there might be a few passing showers like this one. Now Dawson will line up from 55, lays into it, kicks it low, kicks it long enough, kicks it out of bounds on the full. Hooked it. Probably looking for that extra distance. 7 minutes played opening term, Sydney by a goal.
Should be pretty used to playing in windy conditions, Jordan Dawson. Grew up in Robe in southeast and South Australia. It's a pretty windy part of the world. In obelisk territory. Hearn thumps it in for West Coast to the Hickey stand side. Allen in the pack. Hickey was there for the Swans to fist it toward the boundary line. It goes out. It'll be tossed back in just inside the Swans attacking half.
The wind's a bit hard to work out, isn't it? Both those balls travelled 50 metres plus easily. Beautiful kicks.
Fans rugged up down here at Kardinia Park. Swans by a goal. The boundary throw in there has almost come back to the boundary umpire.
So I think we'll say it's going across the ground.
Straight toward the Hickey stand wing.
Nearly hit him in the head.
This might be tough work. And it's
done it again.
That boundary throw-in's only gone about 10 metres in from the boundary line by the time it's gone up in the air and come back toward the line. It's kicked inside the forward 50 for the Swans. Taken off hands by Wicks, who strolls into an open goal. And the Swans up and running early here at Kardinia Park. They've got the opening 2 of the game. 2 straight 12. West Coast yet to score through 9 minutes, and it's an unfortunately familiar start for the West Coast supporters.
I think the work out of the stoppages by the Sydney team at the moment, Parko, they look to be just a little bit cleaner, getting the ball going forward. And I think this is going to be a day for, if you want to be too cute with the ball, you want to try too many short passes, the wind's going to play havoc with those little short ones. So the team that can actually look up the ground, look over that short one and have an option over the top, longer down the field, that's going to work better than trying to be too cute, which I think plays into Sydney's hands better than West Coast.
Nat Nui off, Vardy on, into the middle for the Eagles and taps it to the advantage, looking for Yeo there. Couldn't run onto it. Mills around a bit of interference. Kelly emerges with it though. Great kick straight up the middle onto the chest of Darling, who marks 30 out directly in front.
Gee, in the conditions, that was a superb kick, and I thought, well, it's going to be a difficult handle there because it went low and hard like a bullet, and he grabbed it clean. It was just a terrific piece of play in what I think are difficult conditions.
Darling will need a big afternoon this afternoon, you would think. In he comes. He'll kick from about 35, directly in front, nurses it, misses it. To the left. 2 straight 12, the Swans. West Coast 1 behind. We've played 10 minutes in the opening quarter.
Was that a wind affected? Did it go from right to left that far because of wind, or just an ordinary kick?
It's a very rare occurrence that Jack Darling misses a set shot. He doesn't seem to miss too many. Lloyd with a long kick in for the Swans, out toward the outer side. It's kept in by Kelly of the Eagles. And they work it defensively to Barris. High kick to the edge of the 50. Almost fell into the lap of Allen, who presented up at the footy. It's inside the forward 50 for the Eagles. McCartan ran into trouble. Tackled by Yeo, holding the ball. He turned straight into the path of Elliot Yeo, and he is a man you don't want to run into. And Elliot Yeo will go back and kick from 40 metres out, just better than a 45-degree angle to the left of centre.
Well, if the wind is like we think it is, this one needs to start at the right-hand goalpost and fade back towards the middle. We did have one shot from behind. Can the cameraman then flick around to that one again? Because that'll give us a good indication.
5th game of the season for Elliot Yeo. Had a lot of difficulty with injuries throughout the year. From 45 metres out, sends it on its way and kicks his first of the season and the Eagles' first of the day. West Coast 1-1-7. Sydney 2 straight 12, 11 and a half minutes played in the opening term on Grandstand AFL. Your experts are Nathan Burke and David Parkin.
Well, Burke, was a low trajectory kick, which he punched more than lobbed, and it certainly stayed online from the boot. So we're still trying to work out the conditions and how it's going to affect the playing of the game. Certainly at ground level, it is quite difficult. It's quite difficult to stay on your feet and make the movements you have to. Quite difficult to handle the slippery ball.
Yeah, whilst it looks very green, you can tell there's not a lot of grass covering certain areas. So players are going to hit certain areas pretty much straight up and down the corridor, then on the corner of the squares. And in that centre, it's going to find it very slippery, especially if we get a light sprinkling of rain.
Nat Nui back into the middle to take on Tom Hickey. High bounce, favoured Hickey. Nat Nui came over the top. Hickey whacked it out of his hands. Mills left it in the end for Goulden, who came absolutely flying in from half forward. He was ripped off the ball. Now Cole off balance as he kicked. Big fist from Dawson coming the other way. Held it well to tap it to the advantage of Florent, who enters 50, goes deep, and a good mark by Haywood. Marked up against Allen there in... you'd have to give the height there to Oscar Allen, but he used his body beautifully in that contest.
Great call, Maisie. I mean, that was a difficult position. He was moving it awkwardly. It came at an angle that was hard to control. That is a superb mark in the situation.
Will Haywood. Left forward pocket. Should kick this one. 20 metres out. Angled to the left. Comes in and makes no mistake. And Sydney have 3 straight to open proceedings. West Coast 1-1-7. 13 minutes played opening quarter on Grandstand AFL.
We might, sorry, Berkey, but we might get reasonable in what I think are very, I'm keep making the point, but are pretty difficult conditions to play the kind of football that you as an individual and your team would want. If they're attacking as strongly as we see at the moment, then we might get a classical game, a close game, but played with goal scoring and not low scoreboard effect.
Yeah, and you got to think if it does get a little bit uglier, well then 3 goals straight. That's going to play a big part by the end. If that's 1 goal 2, and you're both 1 goal 1 up the other end, to be able to make hay while the sun shines, for want of a better phrase, it's going to be really important.
Well, Haywood was the bloke who kicked it, wasn't he?
Yes.
Back in the middle, Natanui. Bounce favours him. He rises highest. Taps it to Kelly, who taps it on for the Eagles. Taken by Dawson for the Swans. Kicks toward half forward. Cole reaches out opposed to Wicks. Thumps it down into the centre square. Edwards comes crashing through. Got upended. In fact, it was Duggan who took it for the Eagles. He had another go and got tackled and knocked off the footy. Natanui picks it up for West Coast. Shoots the handball through the traffic to Kelly. He had it dislodged, but it spilt to Redden on the outer side wing. Tumbles a kick up toward half forward for the Eagles. McCartan comes out, left it behind for the Swans. Going in now, Fox. Handball to Cunningham, now to Blakey. Enters the defensive 50 for Sydney. Last link in the chain is Dane Rampy, who's 30 out from the Swans' defensive goal at the players' stand end, the Barwon River end here at Cardinia Park. Sydney by 11 points through 15 minutes as Rampy exits toward the outer side and the kick gets over the back and it's marked by James Bell of the Swans.
Yeah, that one looked to carry a little further as well. Hand pass to the running McInerney. They've linked up well here. Parker was on the end of a chain of hand passes. Hand pass to Goulden, who just got it to McInerney, who kept on running. Cole made the crucial interception, read it nicely. Kelly wrapped up immediately from the spillage and a ball up at right half forward for the Swans.
It's a bit sad, mate, that the last handball didn't go because the 5 previous ones were rippers under pressure and the last one was smothered.
Tossed up. Natanui won it cleanly down to Sheed, who snaps around the corner. It's quite a central snap too, and the mark taken by Blake, who can run into the centre square, delivers straight up the middle, gets through the pack. High tackle, was it? Yes. Now getting to his feet there is Goulden. Went low, tackle had to be lower, and he got one round the shoulders.
In some ways, you feel for the defender because the player does lift the elbow up and gets it over the shoulder. But on the other hand, you've just got to be super careful to go low. You've really got to go lower than you actually would normally to not give away a free kick 20 metres out, virtually dead in front.
Errol Goulden. 25 out, directly in front. Should kick this. It's low, it's hard, and it's home. Sydney have 4 opening quarter goals in 16 minutes. West Coast 1-1-7. The margin, a comfortable 17 points for the Swans.
Well, they'd be delighted. I reckon I don't know whether you anticipate when you come to it. Started that way, as you say, instead of being 2-2 or 1-3, they've got 4 straight ones on the board. And that call on that, it's really difficult because the original part of the tackle was around the arms of Fernand, and by lifting his hands up, or one arm up one side, the hand of the tackler slides up and over. I'm not for that. I want the ball player to be, protected and encouraged, etc. But that is not right.
for Sydney Swans, Tom Hickey came, he jogged off under his own steam, bit of a limp up with his left leg. It is heavily taped. He didn't seek immediate medical attention, just walked up and down, so hopefully just a corky or something like that, but Hickey off the ground at the moment.
James Bell going into the rooms. Amadi's in the ruck for the Eagles, and it's taken decisively by Shuey for West Coast, who kicks to the edge of the 50. Darling crashes out and pulls in a mark. 55 from home. Kicks to the pocket. Vardy the target. It floats over his head and out of bounds on the full.
What a useless kick.
I'm not sure why you aim over there, because even if somebody does crumb the ball or even mark the ball, it's a tough shot to have. So kick at the top of the goal square. Sometimes the simple things are the best.
Again, it looked like it carried a fair distance. McCartan takes it for the Swans from the last line, clears the defensive 50. Florent off hands, handball to Goulden, shrugs the tackle of Hearn, handball back into traffic at halfback was dangerous. Natanui had it for a moment. He just scrapped it forward, taken by McInerney, tumbles it into the centre. Happily knocked it out of the hands of Shepherd when he was deemed to have had control of the football. So Brad Shepherd from just in front of centre for the Eagles can drive them forward. They trail by 17 points.
He puts it up right to the hot spot. Where are the Flyers? Kennedy trying to get in position. Coming steaming through was McInerney. Missed the ball at ground level. A couple of tacklers lie on top of Parker, who gets to his feet eventually. And a ball up it will be. 20 metres out directly in front. Natanui becomes the tackler in the end and tries to rip it out of his opponent's hand. The ball spilt free. Now Cunningham in there. Natanui tackles him and we'll have another stoppage. This time 10 metres closer to goal at the top of the goal square.
Actually don't mind them letting it go like that. Do you think it might just pop out rather than have another ball up?
Marty up, knocks it down to Cripps of the Eagles, who almost sharked the tap. Good tackle laid by Redden. And it again can't be pulled out of the mess. So we're still about 25 metres out from the Eagles' goal. The players stand end here at Kardinia Park. Kennedy has a go this time. Sheeds out the back. His handball knocked down. Spills to Shuey, who's collared by Hewitt. Umpire says play on. Luke Shuey's had his head ripped off inside forward 50 for the Eagles. Gets up. And he is apoplectic.
Well, the umpire's flapping his elbow in the air, suggesting, no, you did that by lifting your elbow. But
that was free kick.
What about the other end?
Yeah, that's right.
Every day of the week. Now again the stoppage inside forward 50 for the Eagles. And the Swans will absolutely get away with one. Dawson drives them to the wing. Hayward up in front. Off hands taken by Heaney, who's caught holding the ball. So there's the square up. And Liam Duggan's got it from in front of the interchange gates.
That was very odd on the whistle. Duggan, Enders 50 with his kicks, got a fair bit of penetration on it. Natanui the rover front and centre, loops it over to Shuey, who turns this time. His opponent inside out, dribbles a kick inside 50. Darling was fantastic, got it to Jones, who snaps and misses. Should have swallowed that opportunity in the right forward pocket, 20 metres from goal. Jones with too much hook on that one. Very interesting that he's... We're just seeing a replay of that Luke Shuey high tackle.
I like it.
I don't mind it either, but they've got to be consistent.
If you've got the time to take one hand off the ball and hold it in one hand and lift the hand up, you've got time to handball the ball. So, to me, that's your prior gone.
Cunningham drives it in to a pack on the outer side for the Swans. It ricochets back inside the defensive 50. It's worked out through McCartan and Hewitt. But McCartan's kick goes out of bounds on the full. Taken by Jeremy McGovern just in front of centre on the Hickey stand side. Swans fans not doing him a lot of favours getting the ball back in a timely fashion.
There's definitely more red and white than blue and gold here today.
Plenty of Sydney supporters. Nominally, they've got hosting rights this afternoon as McGovern kicks to the left forward pocket. Ball bounces just inside the field of play in front of the scoreboard. It'll be tossed back in. Eagles inside attacking 50. They trail by 16 points. 1-2 to Sydney, 4 straight through 21 minutes of the opening term.
Thrown back into play under the scoreboard. Hickey kept his feet. Natanui at the back of the pack. Forced to kick forward. Blakey got through a couple of tackles and the rain has come again. He kicks a skidding ball over the head of McGovern, who has to backtrack. He loses his feet. Hearn, his hand pass was knocked down. Franklin's a chance here. He gets to 50, keeps it low, buddy. Just across the face. Skidded it towards goal. One bounce and through for a behind as the rain comes down this time. 4-1-25 the Swans. 1-2-8 the Eagles. 22 minutes played in the opening term.
I think we're heading for a long, hard slug.
The optimism of the opening few minutes is just waning a little bit. Cole took the kick in for the Eagles, or marked the kick in, kicks it long up the wing in front of the interchange gates. Parker took it off hands, handball to McInerney, dumped in the tackle by Langdon, caught holding the ball. Zach Langdon's got it for the Eagles right on halfway on the AFL logo, broadcast side of Kardinia Park. Sydney by 17 points, kicked the first two, the Eagles with the next, the Swans with the next two of the game. Kicks to half forward. Allen and Kennedy come up at the footy. Goulden took it off the pack. Handball dangerous. Put Parker under the pump. Good enough to get it away by hand to Hewitt. Tumbles one down the line. And Shepherd intervenes for West Coast. And again, they'll go forward from the AFL logo.
Shepherd will kick from true centre wing. Gets a couple of metres on the mark. Kicks to right half forward. Hickey. Decisive punch over the top. Gave Allen no chance whatsoever. He finds the boundary line for a throw in inside. Attacking 50 for the Eagles. They trail by 17 points. Ball to be tossed back in. Over the back. Jones picks it up. His kick was smothered as he tried to re-enter 50. Bounces on its point. In the air a long time for Blake, who just was able to pick it up. Forced a kick of about 10 metres forward. Good hands coming from the Swans. And on the end of it is Florent. He gets it to Goulden, who wanted to draw the opponent. Sold the candy to Franklin and kicked it in front of Heaney. It's a foot race. Can he get there first? He does. He snaps. He misses. And he had a man on in the goal square. And Marty all on his own.
Did he ever?
One behind, 4-2, 26. West Coast, 1-2-8, 23 played opening quarter.
If they lose, that'll be the first piece shown in the debrief afterwards, I'll tell you that. You're right, he was inside and not covered.
It's great work from Goulden to feign the handball to Franklin and go on the outside of the boot to find Heaney. Blakey marks a long kick in for the Eagles, intercepts for the Swans, pushes off from Darling, chips it short to Mills, front edge of the centre square, goes inside the 50, sets Heaney a task. Oh, he had three to beat, he almost crashed through the lot and dragged it in. Shuey grows to ground inside the defensive 50 for the Eagles. Franklin on the pickup, got it around the corner and then collects 45 out. Buddy snaps, that is Buddy brilliant! Franklin goes himself from 45 metres out. The handball ricocheted away from him. He picked it up. He knew exactly where the goals were and proves once again you only need to give him a moment's notice. Sydney's fifth gives them a 24-point lead. The Swans 5-2, the Eagles 1-2, 25 gone opening term.
And McGovern's taken a whack before that last final instance of Buddy's score, but he's been wandering around very sore. His mates are trying to lift him up at the moment.
Well, the whole Eagles defence need to get up. Swans have gone inside 50 9 times and scored 7 times. That's just a phenomenal effort. So the whole West Coast defence at quarter time need to get together and have a good hard look at themselves, whereas at the other end they've actually gone in 10 times and only scored 3 times.
Umpire Matt Stevic this time tosses the ball up, so obviously it is getting very soggy out there. There is a free kick in the ruck contest. It's going the way of Vardy. Vardy from the centre circles. Kicks a shallow entry and only just gets to 50. Jones almost took the mark one-handed. Hickey the rover. Hand pass to Mills, and then out wider to Hewitt. Hand pass to the foot of Florent. He was good enough to spin out of the tackle. No high fend has been paid. So that's going against Florent, and Jones will receive it right on centre wing.
Jones, one of 3 Eagles who's played in a win here. Kelly and Vardy, the other 2, all in Geelong colours at the time. Tom Cole, also an Eagle. He played for Geelong's VFL side in his draft year, but at the AFL level, only 3 Eagles who played in a win. Kicked to half forward from Sheed, was through the hands of James Bell, almost dropped it at the critical. He did drop it at the critical moment, almost mucked it up, got it to Hewitt, and then Buddy juggles a mark over Luke Shuey with the left hand first, flipped it over the top of Shuey's head, pulled it in with the right, kicks to centre half forward. Amadi crashes out. Foley was there going back the other way. It's spilt to Cole for the Eagles, who kicks to Kennedy. Lovely pick up on the true centre wing broadcast side. Wobbles a sack inside the 50. It'll get to Jones out the back. He was immediately corralled by Fox. Now Darling for the Eagles to Kelly, who steadies, snaps and misses. Just rolled it to the left-hand side of the goalpost. Minor score for West Coast, margin 23 points, 27 gone in the opening term on Grandstand AFL.
Risky kick in, set Hewitt a task. He did well after dropping the mark initially. Short hand pass to Mills, who works the 1-2, and now another hand pass, which is too hot for Parker, running through the middle. Franklin came up for assistance. Now Foley, he's tackled off his kick. It's loose off the side of the boot. It's high. And Rampy's not able to take the juggling mark. Langdon got it to the advantage there on centre wing of Yo. Yo out wider with it and taken down. Now a chance for the Swans. Dawson works the 1-2 with Rampy, then off a step. He was looking, I think, for Papley, went way too high, and Hearn takes the easy mark behind him.
From one South Australian to another, Jordan Dawson to Shannon Hearn. Hearn kicks long up the broadcast side. Big fly out the back from Florence, and McCartan's across to spike it out of play. It'll be tossed back in between the wing and half forward for West Coast. Scoreboard hasn't updated their most recent behind, so the scoreboard's got them still at 128. Sydney 5-2-32, but the margin is in fact 23 points the way of the Swans through 28 of the opening term. Ball spins back in, goes into the mess. Yo somehow got a kick clear while he was on the ground. Cripps gave McInerney a fair old shove and then dived upon another Swan who dragged it in. No, umpire says we'll have a ball up next to the numbers of the 50 at right half forward for the Eagles. A kick to the players' stand end here in this opening term. Vardy has a go in ruck. Mills takes it off hands. He's quickly tackled, not coming out of there, and another ball up still at right half forward for West Coast.
Must be said, it's a pretty good crowd in, considering the conditions and the last minute scheduling of this match. Ball tossed up, no decisive tap. Now the Swans come away. McInerney across half back. That's a good kick too to find Bell. Bell wants to draw his opponent. He gave it to Rampy, who was caught in his right boot. Got around a couple of Eagles. Then went out wider. Fox, hand pass, hugging the boundary line. Back to Bell, who kicks off the instep. Didn't have the penetration to get to Amati. Dropping the mark, though, was Allen. Papley swooped on it. Kicks to the top of the square. Shuey first, though, back for the Eagles. Hand pass to Witherden. Dinks a kick over the top to Hearn at left half back. Takes the mark.
Not sure what Papley was doing there, but he did have somebody running alongside for a quick handball. Might have been the better option than the one he chose.
Shannon Hearn thumps it up the outer side. It'll land in vacant territory on the Hickey stand wing. Darling's there to see it across the boundary line. It'll be tossed back in. Centre wing, outer side here at Kardinia Park. Rainbow on the outer side behind the Hickey stand as well. Very windy day here in Geelong. Some squally showers pushing across town this afternoon as well, making it tricky conditions for the players. From the throw in, Natanui decisively down to Sheed, who wheels around, runs the semicircle, tumbled it to half forward, but McCartan gathered coming the other way and then turned it back over. Yo for the Eagles, looks for Darling. Fox got across to knock it away from him, and it's spilt to Rampy inside the defensive 50. Dangerous crossfield kick, had every bit of the carry, taken by Cunningham. He handballs off to Dawson at halfback for Sydney.
Dawson kicks out wide. Easy mark for McGovern. Would have been a free kick anyway. It was against Haywood. And not happy with it is Witherden, who comes across. Gives Haywood a piece of his mind, who goes to stand the mark. McGovern gets to his feet. Doesn't look to be moving all that freely, McGovern, it must be said. That right knee heavily strapped. He's going to be forced to go long down the line here, McGovern. High kick. Kennedy just checked his run and then almost took a strong mark. Could have paid that in the end. Mills with the clearance, goes long, back to McGovern, who just looked a little uncertain under that one, and then Franklin with a big spoil over the top. Real team lifter on quarter time. And there's a bit of conversation between Papley and McGovern after that as well. 31 minutes, the opening quarter running for as the siren sounded. 5-2-32 the Swans. 139 the West Coast Eagles. The margin is 23 points at the opening break, even though the scoreboard still has enough
changing them.
Amati, Wicks, Haywood, Goulden and Franklin with the goals for the Swans, and Yo, the only major for the West Coast Eagles.
So a fast start for Sydney. Kicked the opening 2 goals of the contest. West Coast answered back with that Elliott Yo goal. And then Sydney closed with the final 3 of the opening term to hold a 23-point lead, as Maisie said, here at quarter time. There's more light rain falling here at Geelong. The wind is really pushing across the ground. It's Not the easiest conditions this afternoon here on neutral territory for what is a very important game between the Swans and the Eagles. 6th and 7th on the table, and it's Sydney 6th and holding sway at quarter time by 23 points. It's going to be
Open your ears to the world with the ABC Listen app. Join Yumi Steins as she delves into taboo topics in Ladies We Need to Talk.
If I straightened my hair, I was fitting in, and if I didn't, then I was suddenly sort of a Black Panther or something.
Or immerse yourself in the life of someone else in conversations with Richard Feidler and Sarah Konoski.
I remember hearing this tremendous roar, and then the boat was literally picked up and thrown upside down.
Open your ears to the world with the ABC Listen app.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
Mills handball along the boundary line to McInerney. The look away to Florent was superb. Florent kicks inside the 50, looking for Franklin. It'll get out the back of the pack, and Amadi will run onto it and kick the opener for the Swans. Kicked inside the forward 50 for the Swans. Taken off hands by Wicks, who strolls into an open goal. And the Swans up and running early here at Kardinia Park. McCartan ran into trouble, tackled by Yeo, holding the ball from 45 metres out, sends it on its way and kicks his first of the season.
Hill did well to tap it to the advantage of Lauren, who enters 50, goes deep, and a good mark by Haywood. 20 metres out, angled to the left, comes in and makes no mistake. High tackle, was it? Yes. Now getting to his feet there is Goulden, 25 out. Directly in front, should kick this, it's low, it's hard, and it's home.
Shuey grows to ground inside the defensive 50 for the Eagles. Franklin on the pickup, got it around the corner and then collects 45 out. Buddy snaps, that is Buddy brilliant!
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
Quarter time here at Kardinia Park in Geelong. A pretty grey Sunday afternoon here in Victoria. Not quite afternoon in the west, but Eagles fans who are enjoying some morning footy watching their side today might be a little bit concerned with what they've seen in the opening term. West Coast trailing Sydney by 23 points. The Swans 5-2-32 to the Eagles 1-3-9. Joel Peterson and Andrew Mays calling it for you on Grandstand AFL on ABC Radio, ABC News Radio and ABC Sport Digital. Great to have your company on this Sunday. Nathan Burke and David Parkin are your experts, of course. 2 games still to come across the course of today, Collingwood and St Kilda, and then for most of our audience later this afternoon, you'll be headed to Docklands where the Western Bulldogs take on North Melbourne to close out round 16. The Swans by 23 points here at Kardinia Park. Berkey and Parko, been a pretty good start.
Yeah, look, I think considering the conditions which have changed and been intimate with both rain and wind, and that's made it very difficult. I think the standard, despite that, has been quite incredible. I haven't seen the handling or the method of play hasn't changed all that much. They're still handling the ball. It hasn't been a grab and kick it and hope. It's been trying to use it both with hand and feet. We had a sequence at one stage where Sydney took it with 7 handballs from their half, from the rear defensive 50 and the forward 50. They gave it up on the 8th hand pass, but it's a bit sad. But they're attempting to play. And I just looking down here, both the ground and the ball would suggest that you're going to be pretty capable to play the manner which they like to play. And fortunately, the times they've gone in, they've scored heavily, very heavily. They look, certainly Buddy looks to me, he's up and going despite what I thought would be conditions which would, interfere with his capacity to play, because he's a real handler of the ball. I've been pleasantly surprised that the wind and the rain, etc., hasn't, prevented us from seeing a good contest. At the moment, you're right, West Coast just, to me, look to be a step away from what's going to be required to win today. But I think we've got a contest. I think this is going to be a good game. I'm hoping it won't deteriorate because of the conditions, but been enjoyable to this point.
Yeah, and considering that the Sydney Swans are going at 76% disposal efficiency, that's a really good effort. And what I love about it the most is that you look at the top ball winners for the Sydney Swans. It's Hewitt with 9, Florent with 8, McInerney's got 7, Cunningham got 7, Dawson's got 7. Not necessarily the big name Sydney Swans players. Kennedy's only had the 3, but it's a real team effort from the Sydney Swans at the moment.
Agreed.
The Swans have brought their traditional Sweet Caroline down from the SCG. It's a feature of watching footy at the Sydney Cricket Ground, is that. It used to be at three-quarter time, now at quarter time. They've brought it to Geelong. They've brought some good form down with them as well. 23 points the lead of Sydney as we get started here in this second term. Witherden had a crack from the middle for the Eagles. Turned it over to Florent, who gave it to Mills, and then the Swans turned it over in turn. Sheed, a handball to Shuey. Now to Redden. Low kick to centre-half back finds Hearn, who had to kneel to mark. Handballs to the outer side where Kelly's off with a bounce, corralled by Kennedy. Got it on over the top now to Duggan, who shared it with Redden, turned it over, Mills pounces. Handball to Kennedy, handball to Parker for Sydney. And now Wicks coming through the centre of the ground. Almost missed his boot as he chipped it to centre-half forward. Wonderful pick-up from Papley. Now to Florent, who steps through a couple of tackles, gets to 50, pushed as he kicked a free kick against Luke Shuey, who almost got there and reaching out to try and tackle the opposite number 13. He pushed him in the back instead of tackling. And 13 was lucky for Ollie Florent on that occasion. He takes a free kick for Sydney right on the edge of the arc after a pretty frenetic opening 45 seconds of play.
Just love the way that he takes the game on and runs, and it's exciting to watch.
He's going to pop it to the top of the goal square. Heaney's the target. Gets out the back. Brass is there for West Coast. Handball along the boundary line to Sheed. He tumbles it down the broadcast side. It almost beat a couple there, including Fox. Picked up by McInerney. Shared it with Mills. And now the Swans can reload again through Florence.
Florent looking inboard. Great switch of play too. Couple of free Swans in the middle, away from congestion. One of them was Lloyd. He goes inside 50. His pass reaches Parker on the bounce. Hand pass to Dawson. He's wrong-footed. Gets back on his left. Gets to Hickey. The ruckman was going to load up from 50. Instead, he spotted Franklin at the last moment in the forward pocket. A one-on-one here with Barras, who does extremely well to win out. Hand pass comes away of Langdon. His kick is smothered. And the hand pass further forward, only as far as Hickey. Hickey will fire the Swans back inside 50, goes back to that pocket. Couple of free Swans, one of them's Parker Barras. Great mark, backing back with a flight. Free kick in the end for in the back. Filled the space beautifully. Good defensive mark there by one of the key defenders. The key defender who looks a lot fitter than his partner this afternoon in McGovern.
Harris thumps it outside the defensive 50. Getting over the top to thump it forward as Florent, who fisted it clear of the pack. Umpire Matt Stevic rushes in and will ball it up on the front point of the square. Matt Stevic, Jeff Dalgleish and Brendan Hosking, our umpires here at Kardinia Park this afternoon. No change to the quarter time score. Swans by 32 as Sydney enters the 50. Buddy dropped the mark at full forward. Picked up by Heaney. Quick snap, quick goal. Isaac Heaney collects the crumbs beautifully. And Sydney continue on their merry way in this second term. Margin out to a game-high 29 points. 6-2-38 the Swans. West Coast 1-3-9. 3 minutes into the second term. It's starting to get worrying for the Eagles.
Mate, and it's exciting footy even so. I love the way the Swans play. They've used it with their hands and the way they've normally in very good conditions. This is the method that we've known them. They they carry it over and bring it to Geelong here and play it with a slippery ball and high winds. It's really exciting stuff to see the quality or standard of this game despite what I would call pretty demanding conditions.
And the uncontested possessions are 87-50 in favour of the Swans, but you wouldn't say the Swans are over-possessing the ball or chipping the ball around. They're actually attacking with their uncontested possessions, which is the pleasing thing to watch.
From the stoppage in the middle, Kennedy gets onto it, and then Nat Nui gets onto him along with Yo. He's locked up immediately. A second stoppage to take place.
Well, the game's fast getting out of Eagles' hands, really.
Yep, they need to shut down those uncontested possessions.
That tap shark by Duggan. He's taken down immediately. We're back near the centre circles for the third ball up in a row. Tossed up quickly. Nat Nui. Hickey won it down over the top of him. Hand pass from Parker to Lloyd, who goes off his left boot up towards the wing. Hearn, his kick was partially smothered, ricocheted off a couple of boots. Parker went in for seconds, couldn't quite get it. Hickey, fantastic hand pass to the running McInerney outside of him. Hand pass inboard to Mills, who goes inside 50. Hayward couldn't get a run at it, but he's over the back. Hand pass to Hayward, who hooks it back. Wonderful goal!
Free kick.
Free kick on the goal line.
The Shepherd.
And Hayward is still celebrating. He's just jumped into the arms of Buddy, and play keeps going on the outer side.
There's 5 Sydney players who had to resume their duty pretty quickly there.
Yep. Tommy was still running around looking for high fives.
Isaac Heaney's run from one half back flank or one half forward flank to the other to try and stop proceedings now as Hickey spikes it out of play.
It's very rare to see a goal line free kick. Normally you can do pretty much anything when you're shepherding the ball through. So
your call of that was brilliant, guys. I haven't laughed so much for a long time.
Not something you see every day. Ball to be tossed back in at half forward for Sydney. Margin still at 29 after the disallowed goal. Kelly goes in for the Eagles, shovels it out to Sheed. Bustled over by Mills. Now Shuey of West Coast. Handball to Redden, to Hearn. Uncharacteristically scrappy kick through the hands of Natanui. Cripps turned it over. Swans go inside the forward 50. Shepherd punches it away from Papley. Spills to Redden. Oh, the step from Luke Shuey was beautiful to get around an opponent. And he kicks to, or handballs to Hearn, who darts one down the outer side and finds Dom Sheed. Just defensive side of centre wing. It all slows down in front of him. There's really not a lot that's on offer, and not a lot offering themselves for Sheed as he kicks to half forward for the Eagles. Out the back, Allen crashed into his opponent in Fox. Spilt to ground inside defensive 50 for the Swans. Florent has a go. Handballs through the traffic to Mills, and Sydney are away.
Mills goes straight up the centre. There's no one home here. Franklin takes the mark. 75 from goal. Thought he was going to pull the trigger. I reckon he's still thinking about it. Instead goes short. Not a bad kick either to Kennedy, who keeps it low. Players losing their footing everywhere. It'll reach Heaney on the bounce. Right forward pocket to Wicks, who pulls the trigger himself. That's all the way to the goal line and punched away at the last moment. Doing well was Amati. Got it over to Heaney. Hand pass to the top of the square. Bell tries to break a tackle. Got the hand pass to Wicks. Well worked to Parker. Outside of the boot. Couldn't bring it round enough. One behind. Exciting stuff by the Swans. McInerney comes to the bench after he was crunched in that collision earlier with Allen. 6-3-39 the Swans, 1-3-9 West Coast.
The defensive structure of West Coast is terrible. There's no way Parker should have been standing all by himself to get that handball received to be able to have a shot. They're all just standing around spectating.
And a pretty lacklustre effort from the Eagles. They needed to respond after last week. You'd thought that after Adam Simpson's pretty stinging words in the post-match press conference that they would have, which they've been pretty good at this year, responding after poor performances. Not the case so far. They trail by 30 points. Long kick in for the Eagles. Works its way to the front point of the square. It's locked up in the stoppage as Kennedy and Mills pull themselves up off the ground. Vardy front spot in ruck for West Coast. Shuey again at the feet of the pack. Tried to knock it away from Lloyd. Kelly comes through for the Eagles. Yo, clean pair of heels. Hooks the kick around his body to the broadcast side wing. Goulden will set chase after this footy. Can't quite keep it in. Gathered in the one motion and just flicked it to the boundary umpire. It'll be tossed back into play between the interchange gates where Hewitt and Jones run on for their respective sides. Centre of the broadcast wing, 8 minutes gone here in the second term. Sydney 6-3, lead West Coast 1-3.
Hickey and Vardy. Hickey over the back, coming through the stoppage, Doug, and his kick smothered though partially. Didn't reach Kennedy, went to the side of that contest. Kennedy goes back to fetch. He's mobbed immediately by a couple of Swans, including Fox. We'll have a ball up. Cunningham there as well. Hands the ball back to the umpire. Vardy wanders down to take this ruck contest against Hickey at the top of 50 for the Eagles. Down to Sheed. Now a chance for Edwards, who goes back to Kelly. He turns it over though. Kick for the Swans, comes towards Franklin on the wing. Knocked away from him, but he regathers at ground level. Hand pass inboard to Kennedy, to Hewitt. Now across to the opposite wing. Making the running is Dawson. He's got Cunningham outside of him. And that's where he goes, by hand. Cunningham now to enter 50. High kick, long kick. Heaney the target over a couple. Almost got there in the end, made the spoil no. Chopped the arms. Heaney can't believe it. He has to give the ball back to Barras, who has been a bit of a rock in defence. Hasn't had many friends this afternoon as of yet. He'll take the free kick in the right back pocket.
Long kick outside the defensive 50. Kennedy the target. Fox reaches over to spike it away from him. Kelly ended up with it for the Eagles. Turned it over by hand. Hewitt to Blakey for the Swans inside the 50. Just skittled Heaney. Coming through was Papley, 30 out from goal for the Swans. Sheed, a look-away handball over his head. Duggan steps through the traffic cleanly. Handball away to Langdon. Tumbles one into the centre of the ground here at Cardinia Park. Blakey fires after it. Darling's up from centre half forward. Looks for an option. Saw nothing. Took a bounce. Backtracked to Edwards, who goes defensively to Cole. And again, West Coast across half-back will just possess the ball. Try and find an option. Cole comes back to Edwards. Replaced Andrew Gaff in the selected side for the Eagles. Edwards comes back to the defensive 50 to McGovern. They'll go inside the defensive now to Barras and start it all out to the outer side.
Switch is on. The kick over the head of Witherden, and that is a poor error. Out of bounds, 70 around from the Sydney goal.
No one around, no pressure on, no opponent near the guy. It's just unbelievably poor skills.
Just not quite there today, are they?
No, not at all.
Interesting to hear what Adam Simpson has to say to them at half-time. Toss back into play. They want to pinch a couple of goals back before then. 10 minutes played, second term. Papley from the stoppage, had it ripped away from him by Duggan. Duggan back into the congestion with his hand pass. Cripps is tackled, and the ball held to him. A stoppage, 60 from the Swans goal.
Even as I look up, the Kennedy and Darling aren't providing any excitement with, strong leads. Give me the ball.
From the stoppage, Sheed runs the arc, hooks a high left foot kick up the outer side. Kennedy's there in the pack, got ran over, and he got a push in the back. It's taken on the outer side by Jones, who kicks to Darling. Has it stayed in play for him at right half forward? It has. Jack Darling sends a high footy inside the 50. It was a shallow entry in the end, and Cunningham read it really well in the breeze as it dropped like a lead boulder. He got it off to Rampy, now to Goulden, to Dawson inside the defensive 50 for the Swans. Long hand pass back to Rampy in the right back pocket. Goes back to the top of the defensive goal square to Cunningham. And now they work it across to Fox, the Swans. 12 gone in the second term. Sydney 6-3 lead West Coast 1-3. It's a 30-point margin. The Eagles haven't scored so far in the second term.
Fox from the left back pocket to the right back pocket. It's a little dodgy. Rampy had to dive on his chest to get there. Closing very quickly was Langdon. He gives the hand pass around the back to Lloyd. Hand pass to Cunningham, now outside of defensive 50. Bell there, takes a really strong mark in front of his opponent. That'll give him a bit of confidence. Chips inboard and finds Florence. Right half back, he's looking inboard all the time. The last moment, decides to go to McInerney. He's wrapped up a few possessions early, young McInerney. Further afield to Goulden, now they're over halfway. He looks to true centre half forward, just over the head of Dawson. Front and centre roving was Hewitt. Hand pass to Papley, hand pass to Bell. Haywood waiting in the goal square, gets the hand pass and kicks it almost out of the ground. Yes, it's over the roof. He's nailed the talk from a metre out, and we need a new footy. 13 minutes played, that's his second quarter here on Grandstand AFL, and the Swans have opened up a very handy 36-point lead.
Well, Plugger, I can't explain how good a passage of play that is from the Sydney Swans. They had the ball deep in their defensive back pocket. That's the one and only time that the Eagles have managed to actually get their defensive structure the way that they wanted. They pushed all their players up, they crossed the ground. From our vantage point here, I'm thinking, how are they going to get the ball from one end to the other? They went backwards and forwards a couple of times, just shifted the defence. Somebody ran past for a handball, somebody came short. They really good skills, kicked the ball to an attacking position at centre forward, got numbers there and kicked the goal. So if John Longmire was to draw up, how do we get the ball from one end of the ground to the other against a defensive setup? That would be the perfect way to actually do it.
Agreed.
Putting on a bit of display here in the first half, the Swans. The bounce favours them out of the middle. It's taken by Hewitt, who handballs forward. Sheed tracks it back to centre half back for the Eagles. Putting his head over the footy is Witherden, was run into and gets a free kick on the edge of the arc for West Coast. The Eagles, after a 55-point loss to the Western Bulldogs last week, trail Sydney by 36 halfway through the second term.
But there's no movement. There's really the options for the Blatant Fish. Just got to go back and kick it long.
She does exactly that, Parko, and it's cut off by Jake Lloyd for Sydney. This is highly predictable stuff from West Coast at the moment, and Sydney are reading all the cues. Lloyd to Hewitt. Hewitt from halfway chips it to the front point of the square. Parker has no one corralling him immediately. He'll go back and take his kick from 70 metres out.
Parker is just going to lob it into the forward pocket. Eagles everywhere. They almost spoil each other. Sheed gets it on their second attempt. Sheed looking across the back pocket. Now he might come down the line. That's exactly what he does. Vardy will be the flyer here in front. Went at it with his fist in the end. Shuey. Now that was another example where he was able to get the tackle over his shoulder. Again, the umpire called play on. Kick in the middle is turned over. Blakey, he'll now enter 50 for the Swans. Deep penetrating kick. Franklin, one grab, almost the second, third, not the fourth. Hayward came steaming through, missed the ball. Now a chance for Sheed. Back to Withen. Wonderful smother. Now he's under pressure with his second kick as it comes back to him. It only travelled 15 metres, and chiming in to take the mark is Dawson.
See the work rate of Sydney in comparison to the work rate, just watching players in their inability to run or wanting to run compared with the numbers that are getting there to every contest, which is they're dominating the game because of it. I'd be absolutely ropeable if I was coaching the Eagles at the moment.
Goulden full stretch in that contest to make the smother. Sets up the chance for Dawson, who's normally a pretty good kick. This is no exception. Well done, Errol Goulden. And Sydney have hit the half century already. 8-3-51. West Coast 1-3-9. 16 played second term. West Coast have kicked one goal in over 45 minutes of footy, Parker.
Well, it's hard to explain because their method is not obvious. What Sydney are doing and their collective, approach has been absolutely wonderful. You wouldn't know that there is a wind or maybe slippery ball disadvantage. They're doing what they normally do. They control it, coming out of defence with short kicks, as Berkey said before, laterally often. They're going backwards and forwards across the game until the option comes in the corridor, and they've had the dominant forwards, unbelievable dominance in their front half.
West Coast, when they get in trouble, they rely on, we've got nothing, let's just go to Darling, Kennedy, Oscar Allen down the line, and that's playing right into Sydney's hands.
Sydney have got options aplenty from the restart. Natanui goes up and knocks it down. Kelly takes it for the Eagles. Duggan turned it straight over to Amati, who kicks the Swans to fall forward. Franklin gets rid of Barras in the pocket. Wicks burns onto the footy. He burnt them all. He runs in and slams it through into the top tier. And this is top draw from the Swans. They are all over the Eagles. And that one set up in the middle by Joel Amati with the thievery. And Wicks capitalises inside the arc. Sydney out by 48 points, 9-3-57. West Coast 1-3-9 through 18 minutes of the second.
Well, with the crowd that's here, the minimal crowd, I've got no idea, I'm not good crowd numbers. The red and white colours are distributed very strongly throughout that. And their response, as it should have been, their response to that play, magnificent effort to score. It's just terrific to see. I guess these are the people who are still housed in Melbourne with the old South Melbourne, if you like, connection in some way. They're playing great footy, absolutely great footy.
Ball back in the middle. This has been some sort of display by the Swans so far. Nat Nui trying to get things going. Sheed sockers it off the ground, but it's all the Swans across half back. And taking it on his chest is Cunningham. Hand pass to Blakey, who's running round the back. Neat little in kick to Florin, who was trying to milk the 50 for the stand rule. Florin opens them up again, straight through the middle. And then it's coming again through Cunningham. Inside 50. Franklin, almost a slips catch. Did he pay it? Yes. Yeah. Full stretch. Buddy showing he's still got a lot of athletic ability to haul that one in.
The kick, though, and the effort to mark it, because it was going like a bullet and it was low. That's fantastic football, isn't it?
Yeah, give him a mark for effort.
Yeah, I just got to say, even if he didn't take it cleanly, that was a superb combo.
Franklin from 51 lays into it. It's coming back, and that is another one for the Swans. This is a procession at the moment as Buddy kicks his second. 10-3, 63. West Coast stuck on 139. 19 minutes into the second quarter, where West Coast have not scored as of yet.
Well, you don't. It's like aphid to see such a buoyant group, which was Sydney. I looked and scanned the field. The dispirited mob, which is the opposition here at the moment, it's just really sad to see. The body language which is going between people now is, I mean, they're destroyed. I don't know whether half-time can stop it and they can start something new. It'd be a great coach, I would have said, who could turn this around in terms of getting this back into a contest of some form from the Eagles' point of view. They are a disaster.
And the uncontested possessions we highlighted at the quarter time, it's just blowing out even more now. 136 to 74.
Nice.
They're uncontested. And the reason is Swans are getting numbers at the footy because they're working harder.
Dispirited was a perfect word for it, Parko. That is what it has been from West Coast so far. Shuey takes it away from the restart, bangs it inside the 50 for the Eagles, and again the Swans have the numbers and the structure around the ball. McCartan the handball to Fox, handball to McInerney, who kicks the outer swing. It bounces in front of Cole for the Eagles, and it's all Sydney once more. Hickey takes it away to Bell, to Amati, who stretches and marks. He's got Heaney all alone at full forward. Was a little bit slow to go in that direction. Now sets it on the head of Isaac Heaney. With it and knocks it down. Full forward for the Swans. Picked up by Bell. Yo has a go. Spins through the tackle. Gets his kick away.
Good.
And it'll find the safe haven of Allen, who takes an awkward but effective mark at centre half-back for West Coast.
Allen short. Cripps just took it at the last moment. Fox was closing. Couldn't get there quick enough. Now a kick comes the way of Darling.
You got Vardy against 5 Sydney Swan players ahead of him.
They're not working the West Coast Eagles. The midfield are just stopping there, hoping it'll come back.
Darling inboard to Yo, backward of centre wing. Yo's bereft of options too, so he just waits for all the tall timber to wander down to half forward. That's where the kick goes. Vardy, one grab, not the second. Over the top, McCartan. He'll feed on the crumbs, keeps his kick low, but it's going to come back. It lands on the chest of Hearn on centre wing.
Use it, son. Use it. But nobody will use it. There's not one player moving ahead of him now who wants the ball. Not
Sydney
one.
by 9 goals. West Coast have not kicked a goal since the 11-minute mark of the opening term. We're 22 into the second as Hearn thumps it down the line and Hickey slaps it out of play. It'll be a throw in at right half forward.
Hickey's been one of the crucial players against Nat Nui, hasn't he? He's been so constructive with his hits and with his feet, making him one of the better players on the ground.
Shot of Adam Simpson in the coach's box holding the magnet board. He might be swinging a few changes at half-time and prepping them already. From the throw-in, Mills around at the contest. Florent goes in, thrown into the turf by Shuey. Parker's there for the Swans. Handball taken by Cripps of the Eagles. Just inside the forward 50 for West Coast. It's locked up again. In the sunshine at the city end here at Cardinia Park. West Coast yet to score here in this second term. They trail by 54.
Tossed up in the sunshine. Bursting through the stoppage was Shuey. There's a free kick. It's against Nat Nui. And it's going the way of Hickey. Not a bad one to win as a ruckman.
Oh, 50.
And 50 as well, as Shuey wouldn't give the ball back. Ripped it free of a couple of Swans as he was trying to break through the tackle.
Last thing you need from your captain in this situation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Hickey just waltzes through because no one got back to be on the mark. That is pathetic from the Eagles. Kick comes inboard from Blakey and the mark taken by Amati. Top of the square. Well, that was poor right through the middle. No one tracking back. Hickey kept running, gave it to the running Blakey, straight down the middle. A1 Express. Now Amati to line up from 20 out directly in front.
I haven't seen much of Amati, but he does get in front, and he's only skinny, not a full-grown bloke, and held his ground and went up and took what was a very good contested mark.
Kicked one at the 3-minute mark of the opening term. In he comes for another, and he kicks it. This could get real ugly for the West Coast Eagles. 11-3-69 the Swans. 1-3-9 West Coast. 23 minutes played second term on Grandstand AFL.
Well, I'm not sure whether Nath, you could have predicted this. I certainly couldn't because of the seriousness of this game, where they are in terms of the season. You would have thought this would be a really low-scoring, really tight, pretty defensive game. One side just played like the others are witches' hats. That's how bad it's been.
Yeah, and that was an embarrassing goal, really. It was a 50-metre penalty. Hickey ran straight down the middle, and the Eagles players were too concerned about getting out of his way to realise that he had a player to handball the ball to, who's a better kick than Hickey. And just a contested mark 15 metres out, dead in front against Barrass and McGovern and these sort of players. That's an embarrassing defensive effort.
60 points the margin the way of the Swans. They might take it out of the middle again. Parker, a handball on the up. He was held onto. In fact, it was Mills, the first, who got it to Parker, who was held onto. So a Sydney free kick from the stoppage in the middle. McInerney's got it just in the shade on the Premiership stand side. Chips it over the top to McCartan. He kicks inside the forward 50. Bell was there, but a good mark taken by Witherden floating across the face of the pack.
Now he's just going to have to kick this long down the line. He's got nothing else.
Nothing, but there's no movement either, Nate, to drag people out to make a hole for somebody else.
It's a situation they've been presented with all too often, and Witherden kicks it out of bounds on the full in the end. So no options inside the field of play. That certainly wasn't the one he intended, but there was really nothing on offer. And Tom McCartan will take it and drive the Swans back into attack, already leading by 10 goals.
It's a long penetrating kick too. Gets well inside 50. Franklin couldn't take the mark. Marty's taken to ground. Duggan sharks it, kicks it high and up and under. Coming over the top, McCartan. Now Kennedy at ground level for the Eagles. Hand pass to Jones. He had nowhere to go, so fed it back to Duggan, who kicks blindly. Petruccelli's on as well, so there must have been a sub. We'll find out more about that in just a second. Kick into the middle from Mills. Finds the chest of Dawson. Dawson back to Rampy.
I think it's Redden that's gone off and been replaced with the injury sub.
So Petruccelli, a bit of speed to be injected into the game. They need a hell of a lot, the West Coast Eagles, to get back into this one. They trail by 60 points at the moment. Mills out wide. Mark taken by a tumbling Florent. So they've moved this from right half back to left half back, the Swans.
It's adding injury to insult, really, for West Coast, isn't it? With Redden out of the game and Jack Petruccelli out there. James Robot on the sub for the Swans, not activated as yet. Cunningham's got it on the edge of the defensive 50 for Sydney. Chips short to Kennedy.
There's always somebody available. When it's Sydney in the finish, they wait and wait and wait. And there's always somebody who makes the ground to make himself available. I don't see that at all from West Coast Eagles.
46 minutes since West Coast kicked a goal in this game. Marooned on 1-3-9. Haven't scored in the second term. Sydney lead by 60 points. Long kick up the line. Hickey's waiting for it to come out. Spills toward the boundary line. Mills puts his head over it. He's driven across the line by Shuey. And it'll be tossed back into play just forward of centre wing for the Swans on the outer side here at Kardinia Park, a neutral venue. West Coast haven't won here since round 10 2006. They were smashed here by Geelong by 97 points in round 6, and they're not looking like they'll get much closer so far today.
Toss back into play. McInerney from the back of that stoppage. Hand pass to Mills, who hooks it on his left boot. Franklin came steaming out, couldn't take the mark. Created a contest though. Now the small forwards go to work. Papley, wonderful switch of plays. Kicked that 45 metres across the arc of 50, and it lands on the chest of Cunningham, who pokes the pass inside, and not 15. Umpire said play on. So Lloyd was spoiled. Papley went in hard. He might have injured himself in that contest. Now the Eagles have a chance to spin away through Duggan. Duggan slips as he kicks. Rampy mops up. Hand pass to McInerney, who kicks blindly inside 50. Out the back, McGovern, big fist. And it just trickles over for a boundary throw in the right forward pocket.
Papley's in real trouble, I think. I think he's taken an abdominal hit.
The umpire's just drew, and they stopped play here as Papley is still on the ground in the arms of the physio right on the edge of the arc. They have just blown time off.
There's a hip to the rib region, so hopefully it's just winded him rather than done any damage.
Coming out and asking Tom Papley, are you okay? And he'll just not be able to say anything, most likely. I think he's just gasping for air. He just trots off inside the forward 50. The physio gallops away to the boundary line. So, as you were, Tom. He's a tough customer. Ball to be tossed back inside forward 50 for the Swans. They try to continue the onslaught here in this second term. Yeo left it behind at the stoppage. It spilled away for the Swans, and here's Ollie Florent, 40 out, steadies, fires, misses. To the left-hand side, the margin 61. It equals Sydney's highest scoring first half of the season at 70 points, 29 minutes gone in the second quarter on Grandstand AFL.
Didn't expect this, considering the conditions down here. Chilly, windy. We've had a couple of showers come through already, but it has been an absolute procession for the Swans. Kick from defence comes to Hearn, who marks in the left back pocket. Hearn short to Witherden. Just travels 15. Luke Parker was hot on that on the mark. Witherden looking for a way out. Again, not a lot of movement forward of the ball. He might have just been waiting for that siren getting the call. But it brings to close a fair first half by the Sydney Swans, and Jones is really taking McCartan to task down in front of the interchange benches. Nothing really serious apart from McCartan being thrown to the ground, and then Jones goes again.
Jones was the one who started it. He went to McCartan and gave him a push in the chest. I don't know whether something was said, but he's very fired up.
He sure is.
If you're his size, you shouldn't be starting a fight.
No. Especially with some of the bigger boys there of Sydney who came in quickly. It's the most fight West Coast have shown, it must be said, in the first half.
Good point.
West Coast 139, Sydney 11-470. Maybe something like that can get them going. Nick Naitanui still in there. Yeo still in there. McGovern and Chewy. So the Swans getting the applause from their fans here as they come to the rooms on the broadcast side. Meanwhile, West Coast trotting rather forlornly over the opposite side of the oval. West Coast trail by 61 points. It has been some sort of first half here by the Sydney Swans. Goal kickers, 2 to Franklin, 2 to Armady, 2 to Hayward and 2 to Wicks. Singles to Heaney, Dawson and Goulden. And the only goal kicker for West Coast, who didn't score in that second quarter, was Elliot Yeo at the 11-minute mark of the opening term.
I'm not being a smarty, Mosey, but that's the most aggression, sadly, that team has shown for a half of football. I mean, if you were coaching now, I could imagine coming in at half-time, you would be so frustrated by the lack of work, the lack of physicality. I mean, it's just Sydney have been able to do it almost like circle work, almost like you've got witches' hats there and all you've got to do is go around them. There's no effort at all. That is don't take anything away from Sydney, because I think they've controlled the game by winning the ball, making good decisions, having numbers to use both hand and foot, and their skill level in what I think has been reasonably difficult conditions, even though they've improved a bit now, has been sensational. Sydney have looked every bit a finalist, a top 8 side who would do some damage, and West Coast have looked exactly the opposite. They look like a bottom 4 team, unable to do anything today, which would suggest that they can, contest September in Shumble. Ain't going to happen. That's 2 weeks, as you've suggested, of games which are despicable, just unacceptable by the manner which they're, approaching it. The work rate, the support of each other. It's been, till the half-time siren, we saw the first support of each other, and that is a disgrace.
We knew the Eagles were flaky. Herky, I'm not sure we knew it was this bad.
No, I've been extremely disappointed, and the thing I'm really disappointed in is the work rate. The reason why the uncontested possessions, I know I'm harping on about this, it's 162 to 87. They've almost doubled uncontested
Never
possessions.
happens.
And this is the West Coast team who like to chip the ball around, have a lot of uncontested marks. The marks are currently 46 to 28 in favour of Sydney, and that doesn't happen in an Eagles game either. But the reason why they can get so many uncontested possessions is because they're working to where the ball is. The ball spills out to the wing. It'll be 3 Swans players against 1 Eagles player, and then 1 Eagles player jogging over to the contest. Their work rate to actually get to the footy, to run to the receiver and shut that person down, then run to the next receiver and shut that person down, it's just non-existent. And as you've mentioned a couple of times, Parko, when they've got the ball around that half-back line, there's no movement at all. Every single player is virtually saying, you know what, kick it long down the line to Darling or Allen, or kick it to Vardy. That's one of the more baffling selections that I've seen bringing Vardy into the team. He's done absolutely nothing. Just kicking the ball long down the line. And when you do kick the long ball down the line, it's Sydney who've got numbers there to win it and send it back. So in terms of a game plan, the Eagles are terrible. In terms of effort of what they're showing out there, terrible. But take nothing away from the Sydney Swans because they are well drilled. They're all on the same page. They know what each other's doing. They know where the ball's going before it actually leaves the player's foot. They're playing with confidence. They're taking the game on. They're pressuring. They're doing all the things you need to do to be a good team. And they absolutely deserve to be 10 goals up at half time.
Yeah, look, and you used Nat Nui. I'm a great admirer of Nat Nui, and he's a bit of a catalyst, if you like, for that team. When he's up and going, both his aerial work, he scrubs on the ground, he's very hard to lose. I think Nat Nui's had, four possessions for the game. Yeah, I mean, that's incredible for a bloke who can bring so much and who we admire so much. But he's typical of what's happening throughout that whole team. I cannot believe I came here expecting, because of the position they're in, because I have both respect for both the coaches and what they can do, I thought this would be a tenacious, no holds barred, it would be on from start to finish, and there would be a very small margin at full time. Well, we've got a game which I don't think any of us could predict, where one side has dominated 11 goals to 1 at half-time. Who could ever have predicted that?
How's this, sorry for a stat, West Coast's last 5 quarters in Geelong, West Coast 3 goals 10, 28. The opposition have kicked 30 goals 11, 191.
Would that play on your mind? That's really interesting, isn't it? Would you come here as a West Coast player with the history reverberating in your head before you crossed the ground, knowing it was, I mean, we all hated coming to Geelong. I don't know about you, Nath, but I played in about 1 draw and about 3 wins in my whole career down here. It's not an inviting place to play, but knowing that this is what you've got to face up to, and where they are, you would have thought that you'd come with a mindset, a positive and strong mindset.
Especially after last week.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, on top of what hasn't been happening. And maybe it's a confidence thing that we've underestimated. Maybe the West Coast Eagles right now are about as low as you can, individually and collectively, in terms of their belief in themselves, which smashes you in the game of this intensity.
And all you've got to think about is we're not playing Geelong. So we're playing Sydney, who play on a ground that is a complete polar opposite to this one. It's short and it's wide. This is long and skinny. So you wouldn't think the Swans would have an advantage in that area. And you mentioned Nat Nui before. Big Tom Hickey, he's had 11 possessions. And he was the guy who was over there at West Coast. And at some stage, they've probably made a decision that, Tom, you're not the man. You can move on. We're going to hang our hat on big Nat Nui, and I don't know whether that's fired Tom up, but he's continuing his great form this season.
It's been some kind of reconnaissance from Tom Hickey. He's been incredible. I mean, all told, in the context of what this game offered coming in, that's the worst half of football from any side this year, surely. 139. Yep, it is West Coast's 6th lowest half in their history.
Is it?
And 2 of the previous 6 have come, guess where? Here at Kardinia Park. So now 3 of the 6 lowest halves in West Coast history have come here, and you cast your mind back to round 6 when they were beaten by 97 points by Geelong here. Geelong opened the game up in the second term. They kicked 10 goals to West Coast 1 behind. In that second term, it was Sydney with 6 goals 2, and West Coast did not score. Half time at Kardinia Park, 61 points, Parko.
I was going to say, Joel, the psychology, when we start to think about this, and the psychological aspects of athletic performance, team games and individual performance is absolutely crucial. We sometimes sort of forget, but when you pile up that historical evidence, it's very easy to say, if you're a West Coast player getting off the plane or whatever, off the bus to play here, my word, we're in for a day today that I don't want to be. I think I might claim an injury in the first quarters. I don't want to be a party to this, but it has been, I guess the word is deplorable. It really has, in terms of AFL football and your ability as an individual and a collective unit to play the game. This has been a disaster.
And on the Swans side of things, it's been nothing short of scintillating from Sydney. who kicked 11 goals in the opening half. They lead by 61. More thoughts from David Parkin and Nathan Burke very shortly. What a turn up here at Cardinia Park. Half-time, Sydney 11-4-70 to West Coast 1-3-9. They need to find some kind of fight here in the second half. The Eagles, the Swans, well on their way to their 9th win of the season. The second half coming up very shortly after we get you to the latest from ABC News.
ABC News with David Rowlands. The New South Wales Government has refused to indicate whether it's planning to end stay-at-home orders as scheduled on Friday. Alison Shaw has the story.
New South Wales has recorded 16 new locally acquired cases of COVID-19 in the 24 hours to 8 o'clock last night, with 13 of them in isolation during their whole infectious period. 3 of today's new cases are residents at an aged care facility where 2 workers earlier tested positive. The Premier Gladys Berejiklian says today's cases are pleasing, but has urged people to follow the stay-at-home order.
They're still likely to bounce around because, unfortunately, it only takes 1 or 2 people not to do the right thing for things then to go up.
The Premier says the next few days will be absolutely critical.
Queensland has recorded 1 new locally acquired coronavirus case overnight linked to a known cluster. Jessica Rendell has the details.
The new case has the Alpha strain linked to the Portuguese Family Centre in Ellen Grove in Brisbane's southwest. The woman has been in home quarantine since Friday after being identified as a close contact of a case who worked at the Greek Community Centre while unknowingly infectious. Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk says she's relieved it isn't the Delta variant.
We are very happy today to hear that news about only 1 community case and that it is linked.
Health authorities are also waiting on further test results of another close contact from the same venue. One of yesterday's cases has now been deemed a false positive. 1 overseas acquired case was also recorded.
Meanwhile, the Queensland Premier says she'll receive an update on the state's stock of the Pfizer vaccine tomorrow. Chief Health Officer Dr Jeanette Young says Queenslanders who have received their first dose of Pfizer can walk into any vaccination clinic to receive their second.
If you aren't able to book an appointment, you can ring 134 COVID or you can just walk into any clinic that's offering Pfizer vaccines. You don't need an appointment. So that's people due for their second dose because you must have it within 42 days. That is critical.
Victorian health officials say any further easing of restrictions depends on community cases and interstate outbreaks, as the state records its 4th straight day of no new local infections. Tightened restrictions are expected to remain in place until at least Thursday, including caps on gatherings, masks indoors, and density limits in venues. Health Minister Martin Foley says with so many people returning from school holidays interstate, it's vital that Victorians continue to get tested.
0 days are always good days, and I'm sure that the public health officials will take that into account. Our biggest worry in the public health community is the risk of incursions from interstate outbreaks.
Western Australia has recorded 1 new case of COVID-19 overnight. The man who returned a positive result is the partner of a previous case linked to the cluster in Perth's northern suburbs. WA Health Minister Roger Cook says the man has been in quarantine since the 26th of June and does not present a health risk to the community. Several NRL players from St George Illawarra are being investigated for breaching stay-at-home orders. The club says it's aware that a number of players have broken state government rules and the NRL's biosecurity protocols. The Dragons say the league's integrity unit and New South Wales Police are investigating. Last week, the Bulldogs were fined $50,000 by the NRL after 5 players went to hotels in Coogee and Bondi in Sydney's eastern suburbs while meant to be in lockdown. A search is continuing for a fishing boat missing from Wollongong in the New South Wales Illawarra. Family members alerted police that the boat with 3 men on board failed to return after leaving a boat ramp in the suburb of Bellambi yesterday afternoon. Police spokesman Adam Hawes says a number of agencies are involved in the search.
Officers from Wollongong Police District, Marine Area Command and Pole Air, along with members of Surf Lifesaving New South Wales, are conducting a search for the men. The men's utility and boat trailer have been found in the boat ramp car park. Anyone with information is urged to contact Wollongong Police.
And the Prince of Wales has revealed some of his favourite songs, with artists Diana Ross, Edith Pfaff and Barbra Streisand making the list. He highlighted the hit Given Up, Given In by soul group The 3 Degrees as a track that used to give him an irresistible urge to get up and dance. Prince Charles shared his songs as part of a special show on Hospital Radio to thank NHS staff and volunteers. The hour-long program was recorded as part of a National Thank You Day being held to celebrate people who helped respond to the coronavirus pandemic.
If you're not going through an emergency situation right now, it might be the perfect time to explore the all-new ABC Emergency website. ABC Emergency lets you search for incidents near you, or you can check on other locations around the country. There's also a handy button that lets you listen to the local ABC radio station closest to the emergency. abc.net.au/emergency. Save it in your favourites now and keep listening to ABC Radio, your emergency broadcaster.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
Sydney enters the 50, but he dropped the mark at full forward, picked up by Heaney, quick snap, quick goal.
Young McInerney further afield to Golden, now they're over halfway. He looks to true centre half forward, just over the head of Dawson, front and centre roving with Hewitt, hand pass to Papley, hand pass to Bell, Haywood waiting in the goal square, gets the hand pass and kicks it almost out of the ground, yes, it's over the roof.
Kelly takes it for the Eagles. Duggan turned it straight over to Amati, who kicks the Swans to full forward. Franklin gets rid of Barras in the pocket. Wicks burns onto the footy. He burnt the ball. He runs in and slams it through into the top tier.
Lauren opens them up again, straight through the middle. And then it's coming again through Cunningham. Inside 50. Franklin, almost a slips catch. Did he pay it? Yes. Yeah. Franklin from 51 lays into it. It's coming back, and that is another one for the Swans. This is a procession at the moment as Buddy kicks his second. He just waltzes through because no one got back to be on the mark. That is pathetic from the Eagles. Kick comes inboard from Blakey and the mark taken by Amati. Minnie comes for another and he kicks it. This could get real ugly for the West Coast Eagles.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
It already is getting pretty ugly for the West Coast Eagles. Half-time here at Kardinia Park. The sun is shining, and it has not been shining on West Coast today. 61 points, the lead of Sydney at half-time. The Swans 11-4-70. West Coast 1-3-9. Sydney came into this game 6th. West Coast came in 7th, both 8 and 6. And they have been playing polar opposite styles of football in the opening half on Grandstand AFL. Joel Peterson and Andrew Mays calling it for you. David Parkin and Nathan Burke, your experts, watching it unfold. Great to have your company on ABC Radio, ABC News Radio, ABC Sport Digital, and of course streaming via the AFL app. We get all of our coverage. Just look for the Listen Live button and the ABC Worm. You can get every game of the AFL Premiership season through the AFL app if it's not on local radio in your part of the world. 61 points is the lead of Sydney. They kicked 6 goals, 2 in that second term. West Coast did not score. West Coast equals 6th lowest half in the club's history at 1 goal, 3-9. For our listeners in the West, Berkey, I mean, what would Adam Simpson have said? Take us inside the West Coast rooms. They're pokey old rooms over there in the visitors' rooms at Kardinia Park. They're sometimes not the nicest place to be. The coach's box is over on the other side of the ground as well. It would have been a fairly long trudge over there for the Eagles. What do you think Adam Simpson would have demanded from his side?
It's back to basics, really, for me. It's working hard to get numbers at the contest, to outnumber your opponent. If you're not actually actively involved in winning the football, well then you're shutting out exit lines, you're pushing over, you're picking up one of your Sydney Swans opponents. The danger is that the West Coast Eagles players start to think, I need to make myself look good, I need to start getting possessions, I'm going to get my hands on the footy. Well, that's only part of it. The other part is you've got to shut down the way Sydney are playing. And so that is getting back to basics. The old, Parko in my day, we've got the ball, they've got the ball. What do we do in each one of those circumstances and go out and do it. This is not about ball movement, all that sort of stuff. This is about beating your opponent and working harder and getting numbers to where the ball is.
Yeah, I think you made the point well and truly. The work load, the work output, I should say, has been so poor, and that's been into the contest, and certainly after the opposition have just dominated possession of the game. If I was Adam Simpson, I'd be forgetting the first half if you can. No one will, but start again, and we start to evaluate you and us from this point on. Because I think a few blokes would have been threatened with their losing their position in the side on the basis of their individual performance, but collectively they have to react. This will be a disaster if it continues in the same way. They won't recover from this for the rest of the year, I can guarantee you.
Especially after losing by 55 points last week. You think you'd bounce back from that, but certainly haven't seen any form of bounce back today.
Adam Simpson put it on them after the game. It didn't happen. Let's see what they can provide here at half-time. West Coast rather staggeringly go into the second half trailing by 61 points. On Grandstand AFL, here's Andrew Mays.
Naitanui and Hickey in the ruck. Naitanui leaps high. Hickey slaps it down to his feet. And very quickly a pack forms. Now the umpire's circling here. It's going to be holding the ball. There's Kennedy down first. Yo was underneath him, and Kennedy gets up with the ball. Kennedy looking for the hand pass. That was a little too easy as well, running from behind. Kick inside 50, not a good one from Fox. Overcooks it, Haywood couldn't get a run at it. Kelly runs around for the hand pass from behind. He gets it from Duggan, then kicks to Langdon. Right half back here, the Eagles. Again, just so stagnant forward of the ball here. No movement whatsoever. Yeah, it's like kids who say, put it on my head. Well, at least it worked on that occasion. Darling took a strong mark. Darling behind centre wing, in the shade here at Kardinia Park. Takes on the man on the mark, gains a couple of metres, then kicks long. Now it's a difficult one for Petruccelli, who had to look straight into the sun. Roving front and centre is Shuey. Runs a full 360 almost. Hand pass to Naitanui. Hand pass to Yo, who slices a kick inside 50. This'll work. It lands on the chest of Oscar Allen. Right forward pocket. It wasn't pretty, but it worked.
I think the sun confused most of every player except for Oscar Allen, because there was quite a few standing around who could have got to the drop of that, but I think they all lost it.
Well, this is a pretty important goal in terms of what we could expect from this point on, I would have thought. He's a terrific player. I hope he puts it away and going.
Goes on his left, kicks across the face. I was going to say it was their first score since the 27-minute mark of the opening term. He's missed everything. Out of bounds on the full.
Goodness.
Doesn't that sum things up?
It was just off one step.
Wow.
You need at least a couple of steps to steady yourself. You don't just kick that off one.
This is really unravelling for West Coast here at Kardinia Park this afternoon. It's shockingly so. Lloyd drives it outside the defensive 50 for the Swans. Out the back of the pack, off hands taken by Amati, who tumbles it into the centre of the ground. Papley gives chase, paddles it to himself and then left it behind. Slipped over. Hearn slides in, knocks it to Sheed, handball to Shepherd. It was knocked down. Bell picked it up, dribbled it to himself inside the 50, slapped it toward Franklin. He didn't go at the footy. Hearn picked it up, quickly tackled inside defensive 50 for the Eagles, locked up. And again, Sydney rocket from one end of the ground to the other, and a ball up 40 out from their goal.
That forward pressure from the Swans has been really strong all day.
Naitanui down to Witherden, hand pass to Sheed. Nice dummy, bought himself a little bit of time and space. Hand pass to McGovern. McGovern to left half back. Petruccelli got in front of Lloyd there, but illegally pulled him back over the shoulder, according to the umpire. So Lloyd to kick inside 50. No, in fact, he goes even shorter than that to Goulden. He'll put this to the top of the square. Now, in fact, he's going to have a ping. He's got the distance. That's travelled 60, I reckon, off the boot from Errol. 3 minutes played, minus score. First score of the third quarter. 11-5-71. The Swans, 1-3-9, the Eagles.
They can give it a good lashing, that's for sure. McGovern kicks in and finds Foley. Short to Shuey at half-back for the Eagles. Darts one down the broadcast side, hits the chest of Kennedy right on true centre wing. Josh Kennedy's off and wants to move it quickly. Drops it awkwardly on the left boot. Foley went with one hand, left it behind. Tackled by Kennedy, can't get rid of it. And the umpire says ball it up. Looked like he was poised to ping there for a moment. Just in front of halfway for West Coast.
Great tackle by Kennedy because he didn't allow the handball to get put out or roll free.
From the stoppage, Hickey knocks it to Mills, got it away to Florent, kicks toward half forward. Amati stretches, can't mark, taken by Hearn off hands, handball to Tom Cole for the Eagles. Now to McGovern, hemmed in on the boundary line, cuts the kick infield intelligently to the back point of the square and finds Tim Kelly for West Coast.
Gave it to the running Cole, who overcooked his kick. Now a chance in the centre square for Rampy. Not a good place to turn it over for the Eagles. Out wide to Goulden, who has to kick on his right boot, looking to the fellow long-sleeved Papley. Knocked away from him, out of bounds at right half forward for the Swans. And Papley might have fallen awkwardly there. Is it his ankle that he's holding as he gets up? Still not on his feet there, Tom Papley. Yeah, I think it is that right ankle that he's just holding. Keep an eye on that, Joel. Hopefully he's okay, limping away from this contest. Meanwhile, Mills gets the clearance. High kick. It'll land inside 50. Franklin came very late, knocked it away from Hearn. Now Barris trying to run interference. Heaney, though, was cleanest. Franklin kept running, kicks, and just misses across the face at full pace. A couple of early chances for the Swans. 11-6, 72. West Coast 139.
Whatever was bothering Tom Papley didn't stop him screaming for the footy as soon as the Swans got it.
It's like an Italian soccer player in front of goals.
Witherden to bring it back in for the Eagles. Smashes it on the right boot out toward the broadcast side. Darling, two hands to it, couldn't mark. Petrocelli, the injury sub on for Jack Redden. Takes it. Handball now to Kennedy, taken in a good tackle by Fox of the Swans. Cunningham, short one to Hewitt. Back to Lloyd, knocked down by Darling. And then Darling fends off Lloyd, tumbles a ball that'll bounce inside the forward 50. Swans with numbers, but getting back there, Cripps and Allen make a good fist of it for the Eagles. Picked up by Kennedy for Sydney. Handball to Mills, and then McInerney ever so casually kicks it to Rampy inside the defensive 50. And Sydney will exit to a vacant Hickey stand side. Loping inside the defensive 50 is Hayward. Chips short, finds Goulden at right half back for the Swans. Margin is 63 points the way of Sydney. 6 gone in this third term.
He's a work of that Goulden, isn't he? He really does work to provide an option.
He goes short there. Hayward dropped what he should have taken. That was only a 30-metre pass onto his chest. Yode whips it away from him. Kicks inside 50. Ball bounces end on end and through for a behind. And a couple of cheers from the crowd. It's almost a polite round of applause as West Coast register their first score since the 27-minute mark of the opening term. 1-4-10, Sydney 11-5-71.
Elliot Yeo has to be better than that, though. He just picked up and threw it on his boot. It was 3-1 inside 50. Cripps is standing there all by himself with another Eagles player, but just a panic play to get the ball forward.
Swans share it inside the defensive 50. Rampy drives it outside the arc, and Hearn intercepts for the Eagles at right half forward. Cuts the kick short to Jones. Former Cats got it. He was the instigator at half-time, which is why he's hearing it from the Swans fans. Jones kicks the Eagles to full forward. Fox goes up, almost pulled in a good mark. McCartan, in fact, it was at fullback. Now Fox has a go at ground level. McCartan camps on top of the footy, rips it away from the contest. Shares the handball with McInerney to Mills. Dangerous kick. Hickey, third grab. Had to turn around as he was trying to mark the ball. It went over his head. He spun around, pulled it into his chest. Takes the mark inside the back arc for the Swans. Handball off to McInerney, who kicks the broadcast side wing, and Amati intelligently fists it out of play in among two Eagles to draw a stoppage on centre wing on the premiership stand side. Sydney 11-5, West Coast 1-4-10. The Eagles haven't kicked a goal since the 11-minute mark of the opening term.
That was a good win, although a poor hand pass for the Eagles. Missed Sheed, ended up with Parker. Hand pass to Papley. Now they're open again. Papley through the middle now to Goulden. Goulden inside 50. Heaney couldn't take the mark. Dived back, wanted the free kick, didn't get it. Franklin's now there. He paddles it to his own advantage outside of 50. Once, then twice, then goes hard and low. Franklin might have caught one for over the head. He has. That was called from the outer zone umpire inside forward 50.
Yep, good call.
And good umpiring not to give Heaney a free kick.
He goes
either.
quickly, buddy. One dummy. He's looking for the pass. Rifles it in. No mark taken by Hewitt. Jones onto it for the Eagles. He kicks and it lands with Goulden.
Can't do that.
A little bit late there was Witherden, and he absolutely cops it from Cunningham. And Errol Goulden will be marched right to the goal line.
I'm not sure whether he lost it in the sun or give him the benefit of the doubt there, because I don't think he was trying to clean him up in the air, but it was just an unfortunate mistimed leap.
All kinds of clumsy, wasn't it?
Yeah. I reckon he marked it 55 out.
Jones is limping off for the
You've got
Eagles
to break
as
a
well.
leg, I reckon, the way that his teammates and the opposition react. I reckon there was a sound when it happened.
Hardly put any weight on the leg.
Two of the Sydney players went to him on the basis of what they heard and saw.
That is no good for the young man. Meanwhile, Goulden comes in, he kicks and sneaks it in. The umpire did a lot of work to his right. He kicks his second. It's Sydney's 12th. West Coast still only have one on the board. 12-6-78, the Eagles 1-4-10. 9 minutes played in this third term on Grandstand AFL. Getting a lot of the ball today, Goulden.
Jones comes off the ground and he's sort of haunched over the physio table, leaning over it. There's a shot of Adam Simpson a couple of moments ago. Now Jack Redden, who was subbed out of the game, is walking across with the tracksuit. Shot of Adam Simpson after that free kick to Errol Goulden, who was just head in hand in the coach's box, head on the desk, arms folded across his head. All kinds of frustration for West Coast this afternoon as Jones being checked on the ground, having already lost Redden to injury in this game, and Gaff didn't play today. Ryan's not there through suspension, the Eagles, but they've fallen a long way short already this afternoon. Shuey from the middle got it from Sheed, tumbled it forward to Vardy. Handball back to Shuey, who got absolutely coat-hangered by Kennedy. Coles in to remonstrate. Shuey just slipped over a little bit and Kennedy came across his bow very fiercely. Now Redden, although Kennedy, handball away to Tom Cole. A rare opportunity at goal for Tom Cole. Goes right to the goal line. Allen kept it in for the Eagles and slapped it straight back to Hickey, who kicks precisely toward the scoreboard in the back 50. It's taken by Dawson for Sydney. So even when they have an opportunity inside the 50, they still can't squeak it through the Eagles, and Dawson kicks long up the outer side for the Swans.
Dawson, Parker, good mark. Floating in from the side of that pack. Kick out wide to Hewitt, who hand passes forward of centre wing. Now at right half forward, Heaney is looking for Franklin, punched away from him. Barras got first, or front position rather. He hand passes to Kelly. Short kick is not a bad one either. Finds Witherden, high kick, looking for a couple of options on centre wing, although it's all the Swans in the air. Both collected each other there, Hickey and Blakey. Darling comes away with it for the Eagles, kicks up towards forward 50. Ball trickles inside, it's a bit of a race. Fox back there first. Allen applies a lot of pressure. And then Kennedy, happy to see it out of bounds, went the fend and pushed himself over the boundary line. A stoppage inside attacking 50 for the Eagles. We haven't said that much this afternoon.
1-4-10 West Coast. They did all their scoring in the game to this end in the opening term. That was 1 goal 3. Didn't score in the second term. Behind here in the third so far. Parker inside defensive 50 for the Swans. Towering kick out toward the outer wing. Floats on the breeze out of bounds on the full. That'll be brought back in by Tom Cole for West Coast.
That's better.
Chips defensively to Shepherd as they try to open up the ground. Shepherd into the centre square towards centre half back for McGovern, who goes back behind the mark, goes to the centre circles. Kelly just gets it. Just alongside the centre circles. Now he doesn't see a lot that he likes, so he handballs off to McGovern, who drives a low kick inside the 50. Allen up among two, couldn't take it. Taken by Langdon, throws it on the boot toward goal, and it's thumped through by Fox defensively for the Swans. Another rush score for West Coast. Narrows the gap to 67 points. They've gone now 2 quarters of football without kicking a goal here, West Coast. They haven't kicked one since the 11-minute mark of the opening term.
That was one of the few times we've seen them actually move the ball from side to side and open up a hole through the middle of the ground.
Lloyd with the kick in. It's a long one too. Goes over the head of a number of Swans who ran under the footy there, and then Franklin out the back, happy to see it over in a one-on-one contest with Barris.
It only happened, Nate, because a few people worked hard. And they were running for variety. You had multiple options. I can't remember a stage before that.
Ball to be thrown in between wing and half forward, although by the time it comes in, it almost lands on centre wing. That was a very crooked throw in. Swans have numbers out the back of their stoppage. One of them's Florin, who just waltzes through the middle, gets to 60, kicks to the top of the square, no one back for the Swans. And the mark taken by Barris, who tracked back nicely after being involved in that contest at left half forward for the Eagles. Hard tracking back by him.
Come on, some work.
Franklin stands the mark. Kick lacked penetration. Duggan Brave going back with the flight. Cunningham the other way. Langdon, hand pass for the Eagles to Kelly. Awkward hand pass to Shepherd, who tries to see it over the boundary line. He has to become the tackler in the end on Cunningham. And again, another passage of play summing up West Coast Day. Turning over the ball inside defensive 50, and a stoppage ensues.
It's thrown back in. Natanui reaches over the top of Hickey inside the defensive arc. Taken by Hewitt, brought to ground by Shuey. Sheed goes in. Natanui, handball through the traffic. Edwards gave it to Kelly, who gave it away to Duggan, who drives it into the centre of the ground. Kennedy up among two Swans. Rampy had a fist in there. Allen knocked it out, tunnel ball style to Darling, who feigned the kick around Fox. Got it off to Cripps. Cripps inside the 50 to Kennedy. And finally, one of their big forwards on the end of it. Kennedy has an opportunity. He'll have to kick every bit of 50, maybe back into a bit of a breeze as well to the players' stand end.
And that was a good sequence of hand and foot disposal, multiple numbers to choose from to work the ball out of the defensive 50 into the forward 50. We haven't seen that for 3/4 of this game we've played.
The greatest goal kicker in club history, a stuttering approach from just inside the 50. Josh Kennedy sneaks it through. It came left to right at the very last moment, and he ends the goal drought for West Coast. At the 15-minute mark of the third term, the Eagles get their second goal, having kicked their first at the 11-minute mark of the opening quarter. Kennedy's first of the game takes West Coast to 2-5-17, Sydney 12-6-78. The margin is 61 points in favour of Sydney.
You caught it right, Parker. They had extra numbers across their half-back line. They got in a little bit of trouble, but they had players there to give the ball to, got the ball forward, got a big contest from Darling initially, brought the ball to ground, and for one of the only times in the game, West Coast managed to get more players there than what Sydney did. And when you do that, you get a free play, you clean it up. The Kennedy kept running forward, and a good lower the eyes by Cripps to be able to hit that key forward. So it's not rocket science, it's football. Work hard, get numbers there, and you're going to win the ball more often than not.
Good bounce in the middle. Now the outer zone umpires paid a holding free kick. It's going to go the way of Elliot Yeo in the middle. He'll take the free kick from the centre circles. There's Duggan running around the back. Ignores him. Instead, he's going to go long and high, right into the sun. So good luck marking that one. Oh, Blakey marked it uncontested in the end. The front of the pack. The outlet kick is beautiful too to Golden, who takes one bounce, then chips short to Hayward. Didn't like what he had further afield. Forward of centre wing here, Hayward. Kicks inboard. Parker, right on the AFL logo. Hand pass to Fox. Hand pass out wide to Blakey, and nice little dance step. Although great tackle by Cole. Got him cold. And now the free kick to go to the defender at right half back.
Well, that one didn't work from Blakey, but the one down the other end was outstanding. Not many players take a contested mark 20 metres out from their defensive goal and then play on. And I love that play.
Especially at 195 centimetres. Yeah. Short kick from Cole to Shepherd. He was mown down by Hayward after he'd marked and given 50. So Brad Shepherd will trot into the sunshine at the players' stand end.
And Hayward's got to lead, has he? Hayward can't be the bloke goes back on the mark. I thought he's got to disappear.
He stands on the mark. He's shepherded on the mark as well. As Shepherd kicks to the pocket, Kennedy was second there, and Fox easily stood in front and just accepted a chest mark inside the defensive 50 for the Swans. It was a low entry from Brad Shepherd. It really gave Josh Kennedy no opportunity at all to get to the footy. And Fox can reload for the Swans out toward the outer side. Kicks toward Dawson at the back point of the square. He handballs infield to Mills. Mills over the top to Wicks. Now they've got the run going. Wicks pokes it to centre half forward and finds Bell, who's got Papley streaming past. He's got Hayward in the goal square, pops it in that direction, and it bounces away from him. A little bit too much purchase on the breeze from Tom Papley. And it goes through for a minor score to the Swans to push their margin to 62.
I reckon he was having a few bob each way. Look at Luzo's passing it, but hoping it bounces through the goal.
Yeah, I think he saw the play out there, but he just hurried.
Yeah, it was a terrible
kicked
kick.
it off a step or two.
Talking of shocking kicks, that's one from McGovern, straight into Heaney, the man on the mark. Now Marty, knocked away from him. That could have been a disaster for the Eagles. Kicked down the field by Kelly. Nat Nui fights for it at ground level. Swans come away with it. Blakey to Fox. High kick. It'll land at 50. Oh, wonderful mark of Marty. Came from forward, deep like a steam train.
Go back, son.
He's 51 out from goal.
Isn't he exciting?
I reckon he might have the distance too if he goes for it. No, does the unselfish thing, puts it to the top of the square, and another one-hander. Fantastic mark, landing right on his backside. Dawson in unfamiliar territory up forward.
Gee, that was good. This Joel O'Marty, he is a super player. What's he played? He's only played about 3 games, 3 or 4 games, I think. This might be his 5th game today.
5th game, yep, correct. So Dawson will line up from 35 out directly in front. He got tunnelled, but just stuck out the left mitt, and it's stuck. Fantastic mark, deserves a goal. He pokes at it and kicks truly. His second of the afternoon. Sydney have 13. 13-7-85. West Coast 2-5-17. 20 played third quarter. Grandstand AFL.
And they'd be delighted that some of their younger talent, Nath, is starting to show it has the capacity. I thought they reached the stage where 3 or 4 of them needed a rest. And I thought maybe it's time, but they've stayed with them. And whilst they haven't been dominant players in the true sense, they've all played their part. I think Sydney's future, immediate and long term, is looking pretty good.
Oh, absolutely. They're right in that window to really take off the next couple of years. I really like the young players, and I love the way Longmire has them play. It's a really attacking, take the game on style of football that you can just sort of tell young players love playing that way. They don't want to play the dour, kick the ball sideways, backwards all the time. Get the game, take the game on, and some of their handballs to players running past her, you think, oh, that's a bit dicey, but they do it really well, mainly because no one else does it.
From the restart, Natanui hooked it down decisively over his head to Yo, who tumbled it forward. Good mark taken by Langdon at centre half forward for the Eagles. Unlikely target, kicks to full forward. Vardy knocked it down for West Coast. Taken by Lloyd to Dawson, handball to McInerney, loops the handball looking for Kennedy, taken by Sheed. He's caught, brought down to ground in front of the scoreboard. It's locked up. Inside forward 50 for the Eagles, who trailed by 61 at half-time, 23 at quarter-time, and now by 68 points. 21 minutes gone here in this third term from the stoppage. Parker knocks it forward. Bell's there. He goes to ground off the footy. Looked like he might have been a little bit sore, but now getting up okay. Tumbled down the line for the Swans toward Franklin, who drives almost Foley into the ground. Just got the handball away. Mills now up and under on the outer side wing. Sends it to half forward.
Good contest by the Eagles. Witherden coming in, third man in that contest. Able to get the decisive fist over the boundary line. Ball to be tossed in underneath the red Hickey stand.
Their pressured handball is as good as I've seen in the last month or two. Sydney's, it's just been phenomenal.
Margin 68 points. Again, a very wobbly throw, and it landed pretty much on the wing. West Coast with numbers at ground level. Shuey, hand pass to Yo, who dribbles one forward. Darling couldn't collect. Petruccelli was very clean and caught one high for his troubles as well. So he'll go back from 60, look for an option inside 50. He's got a player short in Edwards. He ignores him, goes longer to the pocket. They compete, and Darling comes down with it. Strong mark in front. And Jack Darling will try and kick West Coast third from the left forward pocket at the player stand end.
Every time I see Petruccelli, I think he's something that they really can look forward to, but he doesn't last long. He goes out regularly.
Darling, left forward pocket. Yet to kick a goal this afternoon. A couple of steps, hooks it back. Goal umpire doesn't move. His first of the afternoon. West Coast have 3, and the margin is back to 62 in favour of the Swans.
Well, that was one of the first sort of softish efforts from the Swans defence. It was just Darling standing in front of the pack, and none of the Sydney players managed to come over the top and really crunch it and get that 5 rows back, which they have been up until this point in the game. So I think they're pretty not happy with themselves, and Longmire, I'm sure he doesn't like that sort of thing going on, even though he's a long way up, 60-odd points up in the box. I'm sure he's been thumping the table a little bit over that one because that was avoidable.
Jack Darling scoreless in the past 2 weeks. Coming into today, 1 goal, 1 on the afternoon. You have to go back to round 5 and 6, 2019 to find 2 consecutive games where he hadn't scored previously. Consistent force up forward for them, the Eagles. Vardy trots around in the centre opposed to Hickey. Of course, Tom Hickey, as Berkey said before, spent 2 years at West Coast after their premiership in 2018. Previously at the Gold Coast and St Kilda, and now at Sydney has had a real renaissance this season. From the repeat stoppage, Florent drives the Swans forward. Heaney over the front of the pack, takes the mark. In the pack of 4, Isaac Heaney went up strong. 2 hands outstretched above his head and drags it in. 35 out directly in front.
He got no body support from anybody else. He jumped straight up in the air, and he was head and shoulders over the 3 guys who are in the pack behind, who are also attempting to mark. That is a super effort.
So Isaac Heaney, he'll kick from 40 metres out. Sydney have had all the answers so far today. He couldn't quite find it on that occasion. Left the kick right, a minor score. But again, the Swans go inside forward 50 straight after a West Coast goal. Margin 63 the way of Sydney, 25 and a half gone.
Hearn runs his full measure, then kicks long, very long, almost out of bounds on the full. Big spoil there by Blakey over the top, who's been fantastic this afternoon.
He has, hasn't he? And he struggled to keep his place. It's good.
Playing a bit behind the ball too, it looks like, as well. Kennedy from the stoppage, hand pass to Hickey, hand pass to Mills, inside 50, Franklin might have had an arm held, umpire says play on. Barrass at ground level, Witherden gets up with the ball, and then a couple tackle Hearn, who eventually tried to emerge with it, couldn't do so, pinned to him, stoppage inside attacking 50 for the Swans.
Stoppage right in front of us. Kennedy and Mills, you think they're going to get a fair chance to get their hands on the ball? Not one Eagles player went near them.
Hayward brings it down this time, had it knocked away. Yo's in there. Handball went looking for Sheed, who slipped over at the junction of the 50 and the boundary, where the ball will be tossed back into play. Sydney in their attacking half. Adam Simpson on the TV, looking on, frustrated with what he's seen, as so many Eagles fans will be this afternoon. 63 points the lead of the Swans. Free kick going the way of West Coast in the ruck contest, and Vardy, who was 8 times a winner here in Cats colours, and he's one of 3 out there for West Coast to have won at this venue. They won't be adding to it today. Long kick up the line. Edwards taken by Blakey, holding the ball, turned into the trouble, and the Lizard was there to pounce. Blakey takes it centre wing, the broadcast side.
I coached his father. I don't know, so this boy I think might be better than his dad.
The Swans will be happy with that.
He hasn't got a lot of weight, but he's throwing it around.
He's been terrific.
Kicks inside 50. Again, Amani, good fly. Front and centre. Wicks trying to do the roving. Gave it to Amani. Hand pass to Hewitt. Hand pass to Mills. Hooks it back inside 50. Good mark taken by Shepherd. Nudging his opponent Papley underneath the ball. Shepherd looking across the face of goal for the switch. Barrass is there. Back across to the right back pocket. Hearn takes the mark. He goes short. Edwards takes the mark. And he goes back to where Hearn was, where Witherden has it. Off one step, rather casually, goes right up the middle to Kelly. Kelly's hand pass misses the target. Amati comes bustling through. Hand pass missed the target. Straight to Sheed, who slams it on his boot. Darling tried to ride a couple of tackles. Did extremely well to get the hand pass away. To Allen, to Kennedy. No one between him and goal from 80 out, so he kicks it and then gets on his bike. Allen might beat everyone there. He tries to keep it in play. Couldn't do so. Out of bounds in the right forward pocket. Good work by the two big men to follow up and at least force the stoppage inside attacking 50 for the Eagles.
That's all they can ask for at this stage. Swans with 19 more inside 50s in the game. Darling in ruck knocks it down towards Sheed. He and Petruccelli collided, going for the same footy. Hewitt's there for the Swans to Mills. Got it up to Kennedy, who slams it outside the defensive 50. Free kick coming to Heaney here for some bodywork in the marking contest.
He takes one big strong mark and his defender starts to panic.
Witherden, who infringed. Heaney spreads it across the centre square. McInerney goes up, brings it down, but can't take the mark. Kennedy slides in for the Eagles and knocks it loose. Yo, handball to Foley for West Coast. He goes inside the 50. And the siren sounds to mark three-quarter time. West Coast with an improved effort in that third term, but they were building on a very low base. And Sydney at three-quarter time won the term by 2 points, having led by 61 at the half. It is a 63-point margin to the Swans as we turn for home. Sydney 13 goals, 8, 86. Lead West Coast 3-5-23 here at Kardinia Park. The goal kickers to three-quarter time for the Swans, 2 each to Franklin, Goulden, Hayward, Dawson, Amati and Wicks. Isaac Heaney has 1 goal. The goal kickers for West Coast. Elliot Yeo kicked one at the 11-minute mark of the first term. Josh Kennedy kicked there next at the 15-minute mark of the third quarter. And Jack Darling added West Coast's third at the 3-minute mark of the third term. Game at the MCG about to start between Collingwood and St Kilda. We'll keep you across that one as it unfolds with some live updates for most of our audience later today. You're getting the Western Bulldogs and North Melbourne. But here at three-quarter time at Kardinia Park, the Swans hold sway with a decisive advantage. It's been an absolute thumping here in Geelong. Sydney by 63 points. Final term coming up next on Grandstand AFL on ABC Radio, News Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
There's chooks galore in the latest ABC Organic Gardener magazine, with simple ideas to make sure your hens are happy in their coop. You'll also learn about growing perfect peas, marvellous mulberries and natives that will attract birds to your backyard. Trees are a priority for the planet, so we've filled this issue with top tips to keep them healthy. Organic Gardener magazine, available from newsagents and abcmagazines.com.au.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
Yo whips it away from him, kicks inside 50, ball bounces end on end and through from behind. A couple of cheers from the crowd. It's almost a polite round of applause as West Coast register their first score since the 27-minute mark of the opening term. Jones onto it for the Eagles. He kicks and it lands with Goulden.
Can't do that.
A little bit late there was Witherden, and he absolutely cops it from Cunningham. Meanwhile, Goulden comes in, he kicks and sneaks it in. Umpire did a lot of work to his right. He kicks his second.
Allen knocked it out, tunnel ball style to Darling, who feigned the kick around Fox, got it off to Cripps. Cripps inside the 50 to Kennedy. Greatest goal kicker in club history. A stuttering approach. Josh Kennedy sneaks it through.
Blakey to Fox, high kick, it'll land at 50. Oh, wonderful mark of Marty. Came from forward, deep like a steam train.
Isn't it exciting?
I reckon he might have the distance too if he goes for it. No, does the unselfish thing, puts it to the top of the square and another one-hander. Dawson in unfamiliar territory up forward. Deserves a goal. He pokes at it and kicks truly. He's got a player short in Edwards. He ignores him, goes longer to the pocket. They compete and Darling comes down with it. Left forward pocket, yet to kick a goal this afternoon. A couple of steps, hooks it back. Goal umpire doesn't move.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
63 points, the lead of Sydney. three-quarter time at Cardinia Park. 13-8-86 the Swans to 3-5-23 West Coast. Sydney came in 6th position. It's one they will hold after the round. The Eagles will stay in 7th, but they'll slip a game behind the Swans and potentially into the clutches of the chasing pack as the finals race tightens after round 16 in the 2021 AFL season. Joel Peterson and Andrew Mays calling the action for you here at Cardinia Park. Breaking it down is David Parkin and Nathan Burke. It was a slightly better effort from the Eagles in that third term, Burkey. And Sydney, I mean, they arguably slowed down somewhat, only the 2 goals for in that term, but still outscoring West Coast.
Yeah, 2 goals each for that quarter, so the Eagles did come out a little bit more fired up, had some good passages of play, and as we noted, they did actually try and do a couple of things differently. Not enough, in my opinion. You can probably still count on a couple of fingers how many times that they did move the ball from side to side and not go for the big bomb down the line onto Darling or Kennedy or Oscar Allen's head. Still want to see them actually use each other more, have faith in each other more, and lower their eyes and hit a few targets, whereas the Sydney Swans, they had some outstanding efforts then. I was really impressed with Blakey a couple of times. I thought he's marked back there in defence, and I think he's realised now that he has a strength, and his strength is reading the ball in the air and being able to launch himself at it, and whether he marks it or whether he spoils it, I think he's saying, you know what, that's what I bring to this team, and I'm going to go out and do it. I'm going to actually play to my strength, and when he does that, he looks really, really good. Marty up the other end probably took the mark of the day, in my opinion. That one, we were watching about 3 or 4 players standing underneath it, and he came from nowhere for the chest mark. So I love what he's doing. I'm going to have to check out how tall he is, because he's been pitch hitting in the ruck, but he's a tall player, but he's not really that tall.
197 he's listed at.
Yeah, so 197 these days. We've got 200 centimetre wingers running around, but he's playing as a tall at 197. So been really impressed with the Swans, and whether this all gets too hard for the Eagles now, we'll have to wait and see, Parker.
Yep, at least they've recovered some sort of poise.
So the umpire's ready to get things underway here in the final term. 63 points the way of Sydney is the margin. Natanui goes up and comes crashing back down to the turf in the middle, landing on his back. Free kick will go the way of the Eagles. In fact, the Swans to start us off here. Mills will take it for Sydney, spreads it wide to Hickey, who got on his bike from the ruck contest, marauds over to left half forward and takes the mark. Handballs off to Blakey, to Dawson, 55 from home, kicks to the pocket. Barris just floats across as he does so often, chops it off. Kicks to Sheed in the scoreboard pocket here at Cardinia Park. Sun now only really covering half the grounds. Dom Sheed assesses the options and drives a long footy outside the defensive 50.
Natanui sets himself over the back. Even the small guys are getting involved. Fox with a fantastic leap and mark. He goes towards Franklin, who takes a strong mark as well on the lead. How was that for precision play?
Oh, yes. The young kid took a terrific mark, bounced off in his way. I mean, he was 70 metres away, and he's put it straight in front of me. He didn't even have to break stride to mark it, and it was a difficult catch to take.
In comes Franklin. He'll kick from directly in front from 45, kicks and goals. Turned around as soon as he hit that one. Big high five comes from Luke Parker, who trots back to the middle. Franklin's got another. Sydney have 14. 14-8-92. West Coast 3-5-23. We've played a minute in the final term.
I've never thought about them being a team that you want to watch. I think Sydney have been a workmanlike group that work together, but in terms of spectacular, high-flying, skillful football, not really my cup of tea. But today they've produced everything for us, haven't they? If you're a consumer of AFL, or you're trying to take someone from another country and say, we're going to go and watch this red and white team play today, they've given us an absolute lesson of how Australian football can be played.
It seems like he's got some young players and he's letting them play.
Yep.
Like Fox being able to take that hang her over on the wing. Just go for it, young fella, and see what happens.
They've been doing it for the most part of the year. They've been a real find in this season. Sydney, one of the gems of season 2021. The Eagles take it away from the middle. Petruccelli, a handball to Shuey, who's tackled at centre half forward. Yo extricates it. Handball inside the 50. Kelly tumbles one toward goal. It beats the pack. Getting out the back is Fox. Left it behind. Under all kinds of pressure is Lloyd. He's brought to ground. Umpire scoots in. We'll have a ball up. Full forward for West Coast. Couple of sore bodies picking themselves up. Dane Rampy is one who's labouring a little bit as he's on his haunches near the behind post. Hickey stands tallest in ruck for the Swans, knocks it down. Kelly, in fact, gets a boot on it. It was touched on the way through, so it's not out of bounds on the full. In fact, the umpire's now walking across to see whether it was touched on the way out. It'll either be out of bounds on the full and a Sydney kick or a boundary throw-in, and it is the latter. They deem it was, in fact, touched, so we're exactly in the position that we were already in.
That's interesting, isn't it? They wouldn't be getting some, I don't know, from somewhere else. I didn't... Interesting.
Toss back into play. Naitanui tries to tap it behind that ruck contest. Couldn't do so. McInerney gets round one. Hand pass to Lloyd. Across the face of goal. Lakey made good ground legs to take that on his chest. Almost ran past Kennedy in the end. He goes back to his defensive goal square where Rampy is called to play on. Takes it on his chest. Goes out wide. Too wide. It reaches Goulden on the bounce, but the boundary line had already beaten him right at the point where the boundary line meets the 50-metre line.
He's a good user, Rampy, usually. That's, no pressure on, and he miskicked it.
Ball tossed back in. Stumped inside the forward 50 for the Eagles and out of play. Have another throw-in. Shot of Jermaine Jones on the big screen. Sitting rather forlornly on the physio table for the Eagles, who've already lost Jack Bredden to an injury. Jones has got a heavy amount of ice on the right ankle. His day done as well. Naitanui taps it behind himself in the ruck contest. Florence soccers it from the back. Bell slides in. Edwards with a chance inside forward 50 for the Eagles. Sheed scraps one through the pack. Taken by Kennedy. He reverses field to Naitanui. Still inside forward 50 for West Coast. Kelly a flying shot. And that one's touched on the way out in the right forward pocket as well. So it's been pretty much in the same spot for the last 2 minutes of play. Right up against the right hand behind post. It'll be tossed back in. Sydney with the first goal of the last term, and they lead by 69 points.
Toss back into play. Hickey gets to the drop of the ball first. Hand pass to Mills, who exits 50 just. It bounces up towards Franklin, who couldn't get near it. Mills followed up from his original kick and socket out of midair. Now Franklin just runs straight into Duggan, tried to defend him, still got his arms free. He's just going to burst through him there. Hand passed out wide to Lloyd. Looping hand pass over the top to Bell. Now Goulden, he's kept on running. Great blind turn. Franklin could end up on the end of this. He does. He gets to 40, unselfishly kicks him board. Wonderful movement by the Swans. And Papley takes it on his chest. Unselfish from the champ.
That call of Franklin running in and being tackled. He just lifted his arm up a bit and ran away with the ball. It was a full tackle.
It's like watching an under-18s kid fill in for the under-11s team.
He's a magnificent athlete, isn't he?
Yeah. And that, I was looking at the player running back to the goal square for Franklin to pass it to, but he found another one right in the corridor.
He's an underrated field kick, I reckon, too, Lance Franklin. Papley duly rewards him with a goal. Nice strike from the small forward. And Sydney edge closer to 100 points. 15-8-98, West Coast 3-5-23. Does he go on for how long do you reckon he's got left, Lance Franklin? Because if he's playing with youthful enthusiasm like this, you can probably see him at least getting to the end of next year.
I would think so. I don't know how he's carried injuries, remembering that he's missed most of one season.
Yep.
Every time he's being, nurtured and looked after a little bit on the side. But he's such a good athlete, even half fit, if you like. He's going to cause some havoc as long as he's got support around him. I love the way he plays. He's just been an ornament to the game, really.
Goalless only once this season. He's kicked 3-3-5, none, 2-6-3, 2-1-4 and 3 today with a couple of assists in there. So
Pretty consistent.
32 on the season. He's still getting the job done for the Swans. Hickey knocks it down to Hewitt in the middle, to Parker, who kicks to centre half forward. Hearn rises and knocks it down. Taken by Papley. Handball to Heaney. Spins out of the tackle of Shepherd. Closes to 40. That is pure class. It is so good from Isaac Heaney. It's been so good from the Swans all afternoon. They have cut West Coast to blue and gold ribbons. And they're out by 81 points. 16-8, 104 the Swans. West Coast 3-5-23. 8 minutes gone. Final term. David Parkin on Grandstand AFL.
We've talked about Hickey a bit. What I was pleased when the goal went through, about 8 blokes ran back up to the middle of the ground where it all started. It was Hickey's beautiful palm of the ball into his teammates' arms, and away they went. That's a classic. If you've got a chance to watch that, watch it at some stage, because that's brilliant football.
Ball back in the middle. Sydney with an 81-point lead here at Kardinia Park. Perfect bounce. Hickey just grabs it, slams it on his boot, gets it forward. Heaney with a high leap, couldn't drag it down. West Coast with the numbers at ground level. Yo running through half back. Long kick. Blakey has front position here. Could have marked that, opted to knock it over for a boundary throw in at the end. The left half back for the Swans.
They always think they've got Heaney covered. Yeah. But Heaney in front has got this vertical leap against the even bigger players than he has to take control of the ball. He's a superb athlete.
His hang time is amazing.
Amazing, isn't it? Yeah, amazing.
Sign in the crowd with the red paint on it saying Amati Party. It has been a bit of that today for the Swans. Yo spins through the traffic. Handball to Kelly. He is swooped upon by 3 in red and white. 4 maybe. The ball's locked up on the outer side.
Never thought I'd feel sorry for the Eagles. I'm glad I'm not them out there.
Been bruising today from the stoppage. Parker, handball forward to Heaney. He's got options everywhere. Over the top to Hewitt, who got collected coming the other way. McGovern. Good tough footy between the two of them. Cole takes it. He's taking the tackle, holding the ball. Free kick to Sam Wicks for Sydney. 65 from home at left half forward. Darts one into the pocket at the feet of Franklin. He's got 2 to beat, and Barris and McGovern. Was he held on to? He was. And Franklin will get an opportunity from right on the 50. In the left forward pocket, tied up against the boundary. He'll have to kick it every bit of 50 metres.
Even though he didn't want to be there and he's hoping the ball would go away, they still gave him a free kick.
Yeah, it was 2 to 1, two defenders and to Buddy, and they just panicked. They just grabbed him.
Wrong sight for a left footer. The long left boot of Lance Franklin. It's a sight so familiar. He can't quite get the finish on that occasion. Pushes it across the face to the right-hand side. The margin 82 the way of the Swans. 105 plays 23. 10.5 gone in the final quarter.
Short kick from Hearn. Finds Edwards in the left back pocket. Dawson stands the mark.
Don't know what to do. He's got nowhere to go. Nobody wants it.
No, again, very stagnant forward of the ball. It's a high kick. It actually falls short. Allen there to pick up for the Eagles. He's slung around in the tackle, as is Vardy. He didn't get a hand pass away. Nat Nui just slaps it out of there. Wicks goes off the ground. Almost entered 50. Went straight to Shepherd, though, who kicks very high. Rampy over the top on centre wing. Couldn't take the mark. Now the hand pass comes the way of Lloyd. Back to Rampy. He's retreating. He gets around Petrocelli and then pulls the kick, looking for Hickey. Oh, lovely pickup by Hickey. The hand pass was a bit too hot for Parker. Now Dawson. Hand pass to Parker, who knew as soon as he'd let go of the ball, it was going straight to Nat Nui. Hand pass to Sheed. Sheed slams it on his boot, and they can't get anything going forward here, the Eagles. Straight onto the chest of Lloyd.
Lloyd to Blakey from the AFL logo inside the 50. Hickey comes across, knocked it down, couldn't take the mark. Duggan took it off the hands. He handballed it to Sheed, who cut it inboard. Poor kick, bounced off Hewitt to Florent for the Swans. Got it away to Wicks. Wicks now gets it to Kennedy, who stops and props and measures the pass to full forward. Buddy charged out, couldn't take the mark. Bell has a go at full forward for the Swans. The Eagles defenders camp on top of it. Spills out through the legs of Hearn. Almost taking it was Edwards. Wicks has a go at full forward. It's hooked over the shoulder by Papley in among it all. And Tom Papley's got a couple here in the final term. And Sydney are rattling this advantage home toward the end of this match. 17-9, 111. West Coast marooned on 3-5-23. Still yet to score to the city end of Kardinia Park today, the Eagles. And the Swans are out by 88.
And if percentage in the finish is crucial as to finishing position, etc., this will be a nice little kick up. I think they ran in 106, I think, before today. So this will take them up by 4 or 5%.
We've only played just under 13 minutes in this last quarter. Still a long time to go. 88 points in front. If you had told me that the Swans would beat the Eagles by 100 points, I would have said, yeah, I'll walk home from here.
Yeah.
So I'm glad nobody brought that up.
It's been a long walk.
Yes.
A very windy walk too.
I'd swim from Geelong to Sandringham if you said they're going to win by 100.
From the stoppage, Hickey is tackled after he took it out of the ruck. And
gee, he's been a plus, hasn't he, today?
Huge.
He's been fantastic today.
Nat Nui down that time. The back of the stoppage there, Kelly was waiting for the hand pass. It finally came out. He squirted a ball forward, only as far as Hewitt. Back to Hickey, who gets it again, almost turns it over, but it just got through the hands to Goulden. Goulden up towards centre half forward. Here's Buddy. Well done by Barris to get a hand in there. Buddy got on the spillage, though. Good tackle. He was caught red-handed there. Shuey got him. West Coast take the advantage through Langdon. Out in front, awkward hand pass. Sheed collects and gets around Hickey. Did well. Now onto the left boot. Not a great kick for Vardy. McCartan is able to spoil. Soccering to the advantage of McCartan was Rampy, who came in for a bit of help. McCartan might have been taken high. Umpire wave play on. Hand pass comes the way of Nat Nui. Inside 50. Stops, props and delivers nicely. Now a chance for Cripps, who hasn't seen a hell of a lot of it this afternoon. No. He'll line up in the right forward pocket.
Ordinary player. Nat Nui giving me shoe. If I'd been what he's been today, I would have been having a shot at goal to try and make my own stats look a bit better. But he gave it to a person in a better position who has done nothing today. Cripps has been a very, very ordinary player.
Although it's been a tough day if you're camped in the forward line like he is normally. Cripps comes in across the face. It hits the left upright. One behind. 14 minutes played, final term. West Coast, 3 goals, 6-24. To Sydney, 17-9, 111.
First score to that end for the day for the Eagles. Rampy marks the kick in, drives it outside the defensive 50, bounces off the chest of McGovern, taken by Foley, who's taken in a strong tackle. There's a little bit of push and shove on the outer side. Shuey's in there to remonstrate with McInerney. They're still having a bit of a wrestle, those two. Umpire's just going to ball it up to get things moving and get the players focused again. Natanui is there, but Hickey reaches over the top cleanly down to Parker, away to Florent, now to Blakey. The run through the centre of the ground go the Swans. Kennedy measures the pass out wide to the AFL logo for Cunningham, who's got it just defensive side of halfway. Wants to switch it and does. McInerney makes his way to the footy and slides into mark on the edge of the centre square. He's held up and now needs to go back behind his mark. Pushed off his kick. Got it to Rampy. Handball over the top to Goulden. He can drive Sydney forward.
Here's the man who was out for a long time. He takes a bit off the kick, finds Heaney on the lead. Over to Mills, who's 60 from goal. Where does he go from here? Pokes it into the pocket, looking for Bell. Over his head. Ball on the floor at ground level. Now Amati, big tackle over the top and wrenched the ball free too. Got a hand pass, back into congestion. Duggan's there. Looks like it might be a ball up. Umpire comes in and he says, I'll have it, as Heaney had Duggan wrapped up.
Wasn't Mills' best decision with the football all day, but you can excuse him for that. He's worked tirelessly and he's up to around about 35 possessions.
Nat Nui down to Shuey. Amati, fantastic smother. Cole runs onto it for the Eagles. Kicks outside a defensive 50. Good mark taken by Allen at right half back.
Big cheer for Tom Hickey coming to the bench.
The crowd favourite, Big Tom.
He is. He's had a couple of absolutely blistering games in Swans colours this season. Went out with an 8-week knee injury earlier in the year, came back the week of. He's had a remarkable season. Eagles sharing it defensively. Barris to Duggan. Duggan outside the defensive 50 to Yeo.
They've got a lot in common, the ruckman and ruck coaches of both these sides. Been a lot of toing and froing.
They do. Dean Cox played the last time. He's the Sydney assistant coach. He played the last time West Coast won here in 2006 for the Eagles. Dawson now inside 50 for the Swans. Buddy's got 2 to beat. McGovern floats across to mark for West Coast. Handball's off to Shuey. It's still the Swans by 87 points. 17 and a half gone here in this final term.
Callum Sinclair, the other Swans ruckman, who didn't play this afternoon, who's been at the Eagles as well. So a lot in common. They know each other's games pretty well in the middle of the ground. The Eagles work this to left half back. McGovern looking for a way out. Just takes a little bit off the kick. That's a good one too. Short to Shepherd. Shepherd, shocking hand pass, put Sheed under all sorts of pressure. He has to go to Edwards, who had an initial fumble, got it to Shuey at true centre half back. He flares it out wide. Witherden, who lays into it. Nice kick to Cripps, who's got a bit of open space in front of him. He plays on immediately, goes to the pocket, good kick, and finds Darling 40 out from goal on the boundary. Darling looking for options inboard. Not enough presents to tempt him away from the shot, and he'll have a crack at goal. One of the toughest positions on the ground to kick from here.
Not many games have played at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sun is playing a bit of havoc with the players on this ground. It's low on one side of the ground, and Darling is looking straight into the teeth of the sun. Is it teeth of the wind, or is it? Can you have teeth of the sun?
Yeah, we accept that.
Thanks, mate.
They ticked off.
So he has a shot from 40 out, right on the boundary line, and it's near side the whole way. One behind for Jack Darling. 18 minutes played, final term on Grandstand AFL. The Eagles move to 3-7.
Is it the eye of the sun?
The eye of the sun, that's
it. So the wind's got teeth and the sun's got eyes.
That was the eye of the storm.
We like
it's getting very confusing late in the stages here. I think for some West Coast fans, they've been confused for a fair portion of today as McGovern marks the kick in, goes inside the 50. Langdon stretches, can't mark. Darling does the roving. Slipped the tackle from Cunningham, got the handball free to Natanui, got it to Cripps. His handball back into dispute, picked up by Yo. Left foot kick to full forward. Swans with the numbers there. Rampy went the double-fisted spoil instead of marking it. Luckily it ricocheted away to Blakey, who put it on the outside of the boot and found Wicks on the numbers of the 50 for the Swans. He kicked it to the tallest man in Geelong in Nick Natanui, who got it off to Cole. Low kick inside the 50. Clever knockdown from Kennedy to Kelly to Langdon, who broke one tackle. Can't break the second. Reprieved by the umpire. Says, I'll have it. Inside forward 50 for the Eagles.
Prior opportunity not paid.
Tossed up straight away. Marty having a run in the ruck with Natanui, and a shepherding free kick against Natanui it is.
Right, good call.
I thought Amati might have just been a little late to the contest there, and Natanui is just protecting the drop zone, but he ends up with the free kick. Amati looking for Franklin. Barrister's incredibly well, and again at ground level, just to get a hand in there to interrupt things. Swans couldn't burst away with it. He keeps it locked in. A ball up just forward of centre wing.
There's no Marty, a brilliant kick. Just a beautiful, and it's no force in the action. It's just beautifully timed and coordinated.
Ball up in the sun on the outer side. There is Amati. Knocks it down. Taken by Sheed. Handball into traffic. Mills picks it up for the Swans. Hooks it around the body. A bouncing ball in the centre of the ground. Foley and Bell both have a go. Wicks is there for Sydney. Handball turned over. Kelly tackled by Kennedy. Can't get rid of him. Can't get rid of the ball. Ball up in the centre circle.
It's great what they've done with Mills. They played him as that halfback for several years, and they tried him as a bit of a forward. Just waited until he was mature enough and ready enough to let him go in the midfield, and we're seeing that now, and he's been outstanding today.
Huge impact this season from the stoppage. It's knocked to Florent for Sydney, who kicks them to centre half forward. Shepherd stands tall with Franklin on rushing. And Brad Shepherd marks it centre half back for West Coast. Puts it out in front of the scoreboard. West Coast 3-7-25. Sydney 17-9, 111. It's been an old-fashioned shellacking from the Swans here at Kardinia Park.
West Coast work it out to McGovern at right half back. He's looking across the face of goal again. Can't see much looking straight into the sun. Petruccelli offers himself up short. He switches play eventually, so they are going to come broadcast side with it, and with a long kick, looking for Allen. It's a good kick too. Allen dives in and takes it on his knees. Left half back here for West Coast. It's been a long, long afternoon for the Eagles. Allen. Oh, geez, not quite enough penetration on that one. Didn't get through to McGovern. Just getting a hand in there was Haywood. McGovern works the 1-2 as he was able to mop up and then switches play nicely to left half back. Yo's hand pass is knocked down as he was trying to get rid of it quickly to Hearn. Hearn's short pass, and he finds Sheed right next to the boundary line near the wing.
Swans by 86, 111 plays 25. Eagles have not kicked a goal in either the second or here in the last term. Long kick to half forward. Darling knocked it down. Kelly takes it off the pack. Runs inside the 50. Loops the handball to Allen. He goes one more to Cripps. Cripps across the face of goal. Petruccelli can't take the mark. Goulden and Dawson are there for the Swans. Lloyd now. Handball to Goulden. They're going to get away with it. The Eagles have got the force field on the goal at that end of the ground. They cannot get near it. Yo now for West Coast. Takes it outside the forward 50. Off to Edwards. Low kick to Allen. And Oscar Allen from 40 out will try and kick West Coast's first goal to the city end here at Kardinia Park all day long. We are at the 23-minute mark of the final term. Goulden now, almost every Sydney player that's coming off the ground is getting a standing ovation.
This guy Shooter's coming off next.
Yeah, Mills has been outstanding. Meanwhile, Oscar Allen on the approach, and that is nowhere near it. Just sneaks it in for a minor score. So, to that end of the ground today, West Coast have kicked 3 behind in 2 quarters of football, or a quarter and 23 minutes of football. 3-8-26, Sydney 17-9, 111. The margin is 85 points.
You tell listeners it's not a gale force wind they're going against.
Lloyd short from the kick in.
Mind you, it was when we started.
Yeah. That's true.
It's been an okay day for football. It doesn't seem to have affected it too much. The ground's a little bit slippy, but the players adjusted that pretty quickly.
I know that you'd want to be out on the boat, but apart from that, it's a pretty okay day.
Kennedy takes the mark, and he goes further up the field to Heaney, who takes a nice pack mark.
Not a huge day for Heaney. I think that's his 13th possession coming up, but what he does is all class, and they've been able to just play him solely as a forward today, which probably rests his legs a little bit for the next couple of weeks.
And it's something that John Longmire commented on today pre-match on Grandstand AFL, talking about the need for class all over the ground. That's why they want to play Heaney predominantly forward at this stage if the midfield is getting the job done. From the kick inside 50, nothing happening there as McGovern outlets. Now Fox, absolute lightning hands from Parker to Hickey to Fox to the top of the square, and Marty leads back. Heaney, there he is, pops up in the goal square and kicks it. He's got 3, and the Swans make this margin 91 points. Closing in on the end of the 4th quarter.
I just watched after we've been talking about it. I just watched him. He was down in front of us at the contest up here. He just jogged all the way. He didn't run flat out or anything. He just timed his run and arrived perfectly as the ball dropped off the back. It was just superb. I think he's a real footballer's footballer. I mean,
he's up to 16 possessions and 3 goals now. So
as a forward,
it's not a bad day.
Good day.
He could take that.
Good day.
Jeremy McGovern's just come to the bench for West Coast, and he's down on his haunches.
Yeah, he's been struggling, but all day. For the
labouring all day.
First 10 minutes of the game, he was struggling with the knee or ribs or something.
There's been many chants go up around Kardinia Park. I'm not sure Sydney would have been one of them.
No.
On track for that 100-point margin.
You nominated that very well. I reckon that's
You're just hoping you don't have to walk home, Bertie. Or swim home.
At the start of the game.
Swim home back to Sandringham. That would be an expedition. Eagles tumble it inside the forward 50 from the restarts. Taken in defence by McCartan. Lloyd, now Dawson on the back edge of the 50 for the Swans. Good tackle, Fox. Good tough stuff. Wrenches Allen to the turf, and we'll have a ball up on the edge of the attacking arc for West Coast. 91 points the margin for Sydney. 23 at quarter time, 61 at half time, 63 at 3/4 time. The Eagles haven't kicked a goal here in the final term as Florent bursts away from the stoppage, runs the outer wing, kicks forward, but Duggan chops it off for West Coast. He looks to send them back the other way and kicked it straight into Jordan Dawson. It ricochets out of play, and a throw in true centre wing underneath the Hickey stand, and a smattering of very appreciative Swans fans.
The Eagles have definitely been a runner or two short today, gone in far too tall. Playing Vardy was just a disastrous decision in my mind, but they needed that extra run they just haven't had.
Nat Nui to Kelly to Sheed, kicks blindly inside 50 and Fox takes the mark. Gave Kennedy no chance on that occasion. Fox for the Swans, short to left half back. Lloyd takes the mark. He's looking back across the face of goal. He goes short instead and finds the run of Florent, who's been good again this afternoon. Florent still has a few options outside his defensive goal square. He feigns to go there. And then he goes to the left half-back flank where the mark is taken by Hewitt. So working this methodically out of defensive 50, the Swans.
Hewitt to Florent.
And this is what they do well, isn't it? Their short lateral usage eventually gets them into a spot where they can get a corridor exit. It's been terrific all day.
Rampy stands inside the defensive 50. Shade covers the entirety of Kardinia Park. Long kick on the left boot up the Hickey stand side. Knock to the front of the pack where Parker takes it for the Swans. Handball to Dawson. One last roll of the dice for Sydney through the middle. Dawson a handball to Heaney. Inside the 50 to Bell. James Bell, 40 metres out, directly in front. Will go back and try and kick yet another for Sydney. And it would push the margin out to 97 points. And that is exactly what West Coast lost by last time they were here. James Bell comes in for the last kick of the game. He can't make it count. It's a huge win to Sydney. The Swans have left the Eagles season in tatters. They win by 92. It looked ominous early for West Coast. Sydney burst out of the blocks. They kicked the first two. The Eagles answered through Elliot Yeo at the 11-minute mark of the term. And then Sydney kicked the next three. West Coast then didn't kick a goal until the 15-minute mark of the third quarter. Sydney kicked 10 in a row in the middle stages of the game and took complete control as West Coast lost their way and lost any chance of winning. Buddy Franklin kicked three, so too did Isaac Heaney, and the Swans register a massive victory. Sydney beats West Coast by 92 points at Kardinia Park, the second biggest win by the Swans over the Eagles. And that is a thumping victory. And for West Coast, there was plenty of questions around them coming into the day. And I think we leave with answers, but not the kind that the West Coast fans will have wanted. This isn't a team that is in any kind of premiership contention this year. And be it not for maybe some wins earlier in the season, they may not even be in finals contention the way they're playing at the moment. They'll stay inside the 8 at the completion of this round, but their percentage has taken a dive. And so too have any chances of them going really deep into September. David Parkin and Nathan Burke are with you for about another 35 minutes here at Kardinia Park. We'll get some reaction from the Swans and we'll get the song as well as Sydney do a number on West Coast. 18-10, 118 to the Eagles, 3-8-26. The goal kickers in the day for Sydney, there were plenty of them. Franklin and Heaney both kicked 3. Papley, Goulden, Hayward, Dawson, Amadi and Wicks all kicked 2. They didn't have a player end with only 1 goal, the Swans. For West Coast, they only had players end with 1 goal. Darling, Yeo and Kennedy. Decisive It was embarrassing at points for the Eagles. It's certainly not what we expected, Berkey and Parko, and that is a massive result for Sydney in the positive and a huge result for West Coast in the negative. David Parkin and Nathan Burke for their reactions to what was a rather extraordinary day at Kardinia Park.
Well, can I make a couple of points? What I think is good for Sydney, not only the way they went about it, the football that they played, but the young players who are coming through now. Blakey, who's been in and out a bit, was a dominant player today. I really was excited by what he did with and without the ball. Young Amati is a real talent, and he's got the athleticism. He still hasn't got a strong body, but he looks like he's a genuine forward, knows where to go, marks the ball well, and a beautiful, easy, long, straight kick. I really liked his work. Florent, who I always thought was around about, but not maybe a regular in this team, has become not only a regular but an extremely good participant. Young Bell and Gilden, two other names that most of us haven't seen much of, but all fit in. So there's half a dozen young players that come inside. Don't worry about the old. They are going really well. The maturity players have been terrific. We've mentioned them out. But they've got a third of their team now who are under 50 games and are playing like mature AFL footballers. So I don't know what chance they have in 2021 in terms of a premiership, but my goodness, you wouldn't want to take them on presently, to get yourself a place now, and you wouldn't want to have them on in the finals because they are a capable group. And John Longmire, who we don't talk about so much, and I know they're in Sydney in a way, but John Longmire ought to be congratulated in the way he got a team that looked to me as though it was down and out and going the wrong way last year. I didn't think that they were anywhere near a chance of making finals, but not only are they going to be a finalist, they're going to be a very, very good one, and you want to be on your best performance if you're going to beat them. So I'm excited for that. I was terribly disappointed, I'd have to say, Nathan, that I can't believe a team as capable as they've been, and that's not all that long ago, could come and perform like they did. Don't worry about two quarters they didn't score, but they weren't all that good in the other two where they scored, two goals in each of those. Whilst they were competitive, they weren't all that good. They would walk away, I reckon, individually and collectively, the most disappointed group in the competition over this round. I can't think of any other team that gave as little as they gave today. A disaster for the West Coast Football Club.
Yep, spot on, mate. There's not much more to add to that. I too was extremely impressed with the Swans' young players, and you can say, yeah, they were up and about because they had a big lead, but it was them being up and about at the start which actually got the lead. Sure, they're still going to have those games where they'll lose ones that they shouldn't. They've done that in the last couple of weeks as well, so their form will go up and down, but when they're playing with confidence, and they look like a team who enjoy playing together. They get excited for each other's success. Somebody else is kicking a goal. We've got players in the back line instantly pumping the arms up in the air, and even when Bell took that mark at the end there, every Sydney player said, go back, take a kick, go back. We want you to have a goal as well. Don't pass it, don't play on. You need to get your name on the scoreboard. They're really happy for each other's success, and that's a great culture that they've created at the Sydney Swans. West Coast Eagles, 3 goals for the game. That sort of says everything, and you might say, yeah, difficult conditions, unusual ground, but the other team kicked 18, so the conditions had nothing to do with it. I just think across that midfield for the Eagles, a couple of things. One is they're very similar. Where's the real dash, lightning quick, the dash, the run and carry with the footy? I don't see that. Sheed and Shuey and even Kelly to an extent.
All workers, but not.
Yeah, they work. They get to where the ball is. They'll fire it off. They'll have a kick. They'll do that sort of thing. But they won't necessarily break a line or shoot past for a handball. I don't see those blokes shooting past for a handball. So they need to get some different looks in there through that midfield.
Can I add one to it? I meant to mention it earlier. I was absolutely wrapped for Hickey. I thought today, and I reckon Nat Nui can play. Looks to me he's very tired, lost a bit of his athleticism. didn't impact on the game, in my humble opinion, in any shape or form. But Hickey had played as competent a game as I've seen him play, not only with his hit-outs, but marking the ball, delivering it with poise over short and long distances, which I haven't seen him do. So they would be very, very happy that they found a consistent ruckman that will tide them through for the rest of this year.
Big win to Sydney today, 92 points, the second biggest win they've ever had over West Coast. It's West Coast's third lowest score in their history. So their previous lowest was round 15, 1989. They kicked 1 goal 12 against Essendon. And then in 1992, in round 23, they kicked 3-5-23 at the Western Oval, which, I mean, depending on the day, that was probably a good score at the Western Oval in some conditions. Today, 3-8-26, the third lowest score in the history of the West Coast Eagles Football Club.
Can I ask the question again? To try and put yourself, and you've been down the same pathway, Nathan, try and put yourself as a coach when your team, and I can't remember coaching any of my teams where we were on the end of 2 weeks or 2 out of 3 weeks of thrashings by teams that we were expected to be well in the race, if not beat.
Yep.
And I'm just thinking, I actually feel a bit for Adam Simpson. I think he's been an ornament for the game, both as a player and as a coach. And I think he's been let down very, very bad. I think he can coach, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to run him out the door or anything like this, but I thought, how would you like it a train trip? Train. Well, I might be going across another wall by train, but by a plane trip back to Perth and being able to handle the press from home and the week ahead. I did look up who they've got next week.
North Melbourne of all teams.
Well, it's probably they've got the right place at the right
surely
time.
Surely not.
But after that, they're in trouble. They've got Adelaide, St Kilda, Collingwood, Melbourne and Freo. And if they continue to play in this manner, they might get one against North Melbourne, but they'll be beaten by all the rest of the teams. And that would be a disaster for football in the West.
Yes, exactly. The only saving grace I suppose they've got is that Freo also went down, so that can take a little bit of the heat off the West Coast Eagles. But the magnitude of this defeat is enormous.
And for Sydney, a lot of teams, or a lot of people thought that if you had to have one team that was going to fall out of the 8 to make room for a Fremantle or a GWS or someone like that, that it was going to be Sydney a few weeks ago. Now they've beaten St Kilda going into the bye. They lost to Hawthorn going into the bye. They lost to Port Adelaide last week when they hit the front in the last quarter at the Adelaide Oval, no less, to almost pinch that. And now they've given their percentage a massive boost and gone a game clear of West Coast in 6th spot. So they're 2 games clear of Richmond in 9th. It doesn't look like Sydney's going to be a side that's falling out of the finals anytime soon. And I mean, the way they played, they're going to win enough in the run home where they've got the Western Bulldogs next, then they've got GWS, then they've got Freo, so they can distance themselves from the teams that are sort of around them. They're not going to be a side that's falling out of the finals based on that performance, Berkey.
No, not based on that performance. And one of the big things that we probably haven't spoken about is that to play in the finals, you need an anywhere, anytime attitude. So for Sydney to come down to Geelong, play against a West Coast Eagles here, and have such a big win, if you want to build that anytime, anywhere attitude, there's no better way of actually cementing it in not just talking about, but actually doing it. So coming back to, hey, look how we played down at Geelong. If we can do that here, we can do that anywhere.
Berkey, was this totally unexpected to you? What you've seen on this ground today, you could not ever have anticipated?
No, right before the siren, you at the start, Bugger, you picked the Swans, you threw to me and said, who's going to win? I plucked one. I went Sydney. I didn't have a lot of faith. If I hadn't known they're going to win this big, as I said, I would have absolutely said Sydney. But I plucked one because it was very much a 50-50 game. The Eagles coming off a 55-point loss, you'd think that they're really super fired up to try and win this, to get their season back on track. But to capitulate 2 weeks in a row. And look, by all intents and purposes, if the Bulldogs had have kicked straight last week, it would have been an even bigger win than 55 points. So that flattered them to a degree. So there's a lot going wrong at the West Coast Eagles, and I think it all starts with the game style. That this is not the game style that their coach has them playing. I guarantee that. They've folded into a game style that is uncompetitive for some reason or another. And where does the coach start? The coach must unpack, why are we playing like this? This is not the way we want to play. Why are we playing like this? Is it because you're scared to make a mistake? Is it because you're just worried about possessions? Is it because you don't want to get your hands dirty and be defensive? Is it because you're tired? Why are we playing a game style that ends up in this sort of game?
Well, can I ask the question then? It's not just a coach thing, and not just a coach's group and a plan and the way we're going about it. This would involve, would it not? I mean, we as a group, coaching and playing group, need to sit down and have a really open and honest conversation, because we have just slipped back so far for the things that we want to be and we believe in and have produced in the past, that we need a fundamental step back, take a deep breath, don't worry about getting on the track and doing something about it. Let's sit down and get our minds right so that can we reverse it. And it won't happen. It won't happen, Berkey, overnight. It won't happen. I mean, to come from where they've been the last couple of weeks, it's got to be step by step. That's why I thought the second half, they might put just a couple of little things in place, and the second half would be better and more competitive, and the scores be closer. But we didn't really see that. No. We didn't see any reaction, and I would have been... If I was Adam, in Adam's position, walking off the ground and having to fly back with the players, I wouldn't know where to go on the back of what he had to see and put up with today.
Especially if they had one of those come to Jesus meetings where we throw everything on the table last week after losing by almost 10 goals. If you do one last week and you do this again, where do you go from there?
Well, that's a very interesting question, isn't it? Because we probably, in retrospect, would like to know what the week was leading from that, in retrospect to it, and then leading into this, what were the conversations and directions given? It's a lot of unknowns, which we can't answer the question, but by gee, a lot of questions are being asked across the other side of the country.
Good time to have to wear a mask so you can avoid eye contact a little easier than normal with the coach on the way home. Now, I wanted to ask you, Berkey and Parker, about some decisions that West Coast are going to have to make, because if you look at the team today, Shepherd, 30 years old, Redden, 30, Nat Nui, 31, Shuey, 31, Cripps, 29, Kennedy, 33, Vardy, 30, McGovern, 29, Hearn is 33, and Darling's 29 as well. So they're not a young list.
And they weren't, I don't think, I'm trying to think of those names. I put down Sheed and Yo as two that I don't think they were mentioned in your group then.
Both under 30.
So the better players, or the couple that I thought were pretty consistent all day, were certainly not in that group. But that group has got to be almost the oldest, would we say, in the top 8 or 10, will almost be the oldest in the competition. That means they're not likely to get better, and you're not going to have to go back to the well with them at all. You've got to go and find some new one and say, this is where we are. We'll have to tip them out and start to replace them and get the players we need to go forward. Big decisions, I would suggest, having to be made at the West Coast club.
Is there a cliff coming? Because, I mean, you don't want to have that many players in your starting 18. Fast forward 5 years, barely any of them are going to be there.
There is a cliff coming. I think it's a big cliff. And at the bottom of that cliff is some rocks. So, but I don't think... I'm trying to think in my time, have I seen a West Coast Eagles go down the bottom and rebuild? I can't think of that they've ever had to bounce right back from down the bottom. They've always been competitive, but those numbers that you read out then and the ages, that is absolutely a big worry.
Yeah, I think it's a significant concern for them, especially if they're not going to be in the hunt this year, which you wouldn't say after that performance that they're going to be anywhere near flag contention. And then it's just a big decision as to what they do at the end of the year in terms of evening out that list a bit.
What they do now. I mean, you've got to come to some realisation that if we continue with these blokes and continue to perform as we have over the last couple of weeks, then we'll be doing the club an injustice, not just for 2021, but for 2022 and on. So maybe this is sit-down week, the very thing that we're saying, what do the coaches do? Well, we need to take a deep breath and say we're not good enough as we are. This group is getting too old now. We need to start to replace them, put it on them. If you want to stay in this side and help us rebuild, then you better start to perform, or we'll replace you as quickly as we can.
One thing that Berkey mentioned, full credit to the club. They've never gone or enlisted in a full rebuild where it's been kids. So they have been able to manufacture good players out of their own development system. So, the challenge is definitely there for the list manager.
Kelly, what do you think? Kelly?
Look, he's probably GPS says that he's covered a lot of ground. But he's not getting attacking possessions. When was the last? You've got a whole bunch of forwards up there. Did we see Kelly burst through the front half of the ground and hit a forward? I'm not sure how many inside 50s he actually had. Whereas to me, that was why they brought in Kelly. They had their workers in the middle, and he was that icing on the cake to get it on the outside, to run, break a line, kick a couple of goals.
Only three
inside 50s. He hit a few targets. He's turned into what they already had, and that's that worker midfielder, and that's not really what I thought they bought.
Interesting, is it? Because the classical quick-moving, aggressive, carry-the-ball player, which you needed in September to have, very hard to find them on that side of the country.
Looks like Sydney's got a lot of them on the other side of the coin. Just on West Coast, so they went 4-18 and finished last of 16 teams in 2010. Since then, they've finished 4th, 5th, 13th, 9th. They made the grand final in 2015, 6th, 8th. They won the premiership in 2018, 5th, losing in the first week of the finals last year to Collingwood, and now they sit 7th, the game behind Sydney in 6th. It's hard to imagine that this team goes again in a premiership contention phase. I mean, this is...
Joel, what you say is right, but because of the latter situation they still find themselves in, and they'll look to the immediate future. We've got North Melbourne next week. That'll roll us back into the form we need. Don't worry about it. It'd be interesting to hear the public comments that come out of that club from the people who are responsible. It's going to be fascinating, because you're absolutely right. The balance now, I think, has gone the other way. I think it's tipped over the side, and we're now facing something that we hope we hadn't, but we need to. And the sooner you face it, the better you're going to be.
It's a fascinating situation. The Swans were very good today. 92-point winners, 18-10, 118 to West Coast 3-8-26. We're going to get to Jeremy McGovern very shortly. He's going to join us from the West Coast Eagles. We'll get you some reaction from the Sydney camp as well. We'll, of course, award the votes in the ABC Footballer of the Year and the Christian Medal we've also got to give votes for today. So the best 3 players for West Coast, which I think there's probably not all that many contenders in the pool for the best 3 players. So we'll get you all of that before we let you go. If you're listening to us on ABC Radio throughout Tasmania, South Australia, Western Australia and the Northern Territory, you're headed to the Western Bulldogs in North Melbourne very soon. For the rest of our listeners, you'll be heading back to your regular programming. Sydney, 92-point winners today here at Kardinia Park. Let's head into the rooms with the Swans and hear them sing their song after what was a very, very impressive victory. So very good performance from the Swans. 18-10, 118 to West Coast, 3-8-26. Franklin with 3, Heaney with 3. So Buddy finishes with 3 goals, 3. Heaney with 3 goals, 2. Papley with 2, both in the last term. Goulden with 2, Hayward with 2, Dawson with 2, Amati with 2. It was a bit of a coming out. The Amati party, it was called by the spectators in the grandstand. The sign, and Sam Wicks kicked 2 as well for the Eagles. Darling, Yo and Kennedy each kicked 1. Interesting to see what West Coast end up doing, we'll ask Jeremy McGovern when he jumps on the phone very soon. Of course, we don't have access to the change rooms here in the current COVID protocols with the interstate teams. Jeremy McGovern, of course, they were planning when they set over here on their travel to head back tonight, West Coast, on a flight back to the west. So it will be interesting to see what they end up doing and whether they can. I think the lockdown situation in Western Australia has eased, so they'll be pretty keen to make tracks, I would say, and get out of here and get back to their usual surrounds. And then, of course, where they play next week and where Fremantle plays next week as well is still up in the air. But it's all part of the week, I guess, at AFL House at this time of year with everything that's going on.
Well, they struggled in the hub last year, if you remember, at the start of the season, and another trip away and another dismal time down here.
I mean, and that demographic stuff you talk about, Maisie, probably plays a factor in that. They do have older players with families and other things going on in life that whether it makes it more difficult or not, in their situation, it clearly has when they've had to go on the road and be in this kind of situation. It's clearly not been something, Berkey, that they've handled all that well.
No, they haven't. And sometimes the older the player, you think, okay, they're more mature, but the older players are leaving behind more than the younger players. The younger players, might be leaving a girlfriend, probably happy to get out of the house, and if they're still living with mum and dad, have a bit of a footy camp with their mates. But the older players are leaving behind wives and girlfriends and kids in a lot of occasions. So if there's anyone who's probably not going to handle it, it's probably the older players that West Coast have got.
The other game at the moment at the MCG, Collingwood 1-2-8 trails St Kilda 4-1-25. So the Saints your Saints are off to a pretty nice start in that one. Berkey, goals to King, Higgins, Membry and Dan McKenzie. Jamie Elliott with the goal for the Pies.
So this highlights the jump too. So if St Kilda win that game, they're now within one game of West Coast, and both their clubs' percentages aren't particularly good. So St Kilda obviously just have to keep winning, but that's the jump. They could go from 13th to be within touching distance of West Coast, who are sitting in 7th.
It's pretty incredible. And I mean, West Coast percentage today, they came into the game at 102.6. They're now 95.3. Sydney have jumped up almost 9% from 106.6 to 114.5. So it's a very profitable day for the Sydney Swans, both in terms of, I guess, the context of their season and what they take out of this from a development perspective and what they do going forward. You mentioned during the call, Parko, Joel Amati. They found one in this young man playing his 5th game, 197 centimetres, spent some time forward, spent some time in the ruck. He looks a real prospect for the Swans.
And he does, and he is terribly, if you like football terms, immature. He looks like a kid in high school coming out of matriculation or something in high school.
Lightly raced, you'd call him.
But he bounds over the ground, and his ability off not a great charge and a leap, but just being able to go vertical and keep his body strong around the ball was amazing. I mean, I've seen him play in bits and pieces, but today he really lit up this ground. I mean, he was exciting to watch. He's the kind of, and then he goes back and this delightful, and it's not a jump and a hammer kick. It's just a beautifully coordinated control of the ball onto his foot, and with ease it travels 50 or 55 metres, and most times pretty accurately. I think they have found, I don't know where he came from, and I should know his history, but they have found a gun of a player, and given his body can stand up to the rigours, and I'm surprised it's done so well for so long, but they have found a genuine key forward who can go onto the ball and provide some ruck work as well.
Just on your point there, Parko's a Victorian boy, so he's a Beau Morris product through Mentone Grammar and the Dragons under-18s at Sandringham. So he does look a real type.
He does, and they did lose Alia last year, who could pinch hit in the ruck and be that athletic guy who leaps around the ground, and they must have known what they had or were going to get in. I thought they let Alia go fairly mildly. They didn't sort of put up a big fight with that, but they know what they've got next in line better than what we do, and perhaps it was him.
And Amati, another product of the rookie draft.
Second round
of the rookie draft. So
second round of the rookie 2018
draft. Or so. He's been hanging around for a while to get his chance.
Isn't that what a terrific story for young blokes who aren't sort of picked up in this draft, and will I continue on and have a go and maybe come back via the rookie draft. There's a very good example of what can be done. So he's probably 20, he's probably older than I think he is.
21, I think
he's probably,
he is,
I was going to say 21 years of age. Well done to him, because I love those stories. They're the better part of footy.
And they've got a good record with the rookie draft. My goodness, they use those selections well, Sydney. Their list management over a number of years has been
pretty good.
Quite amazing in that particular area.
They've done a very good job. We're waiting to hear from Jeremy McGovern. The Eagles have said that he'll be joining us here on Grandstand AFL, so hopefully we'll catch up with him soon. While we are waiting, we might do the votes in the ABC Footballer of the Year. You've got the honours, Berkey?
Certainly, yes. I normally try and handball them off, but Parko was super fast with the handball. So obviously, I'm just primarily looking at Sydney players, although she did have 38. I thought he was a really hard-working player, the most on the ground, and Kelly 27, Yo 26. We can talk about the West Coast medal shortly, but Franklin kicking free, and what I liked about Franklin today was he got up the ground a lot as well. He was up around the wing. He wasn't just sitting in the forward line, so it shows that he's feeling nice and fresh. George Hewitt and Heaney and Florent, all really good participators, but I'm going to give one vote to young Blakey. He had 19 possessions, but I reckon if Danny Frawley was still with us, he'd be jumping out of this so excited about his spoiling work. He's leaping up, punching the ball over the boundary line, his second effort. So Blakey, 1 vote. I'm giving Tom Hickey 2 votes, 22 possessions in the ruck. And he's not rucking against a second ruck when Nat knew he's not there. Vardy comes in. So Tom Hickey 2 votes, and Mills, I've given him 3 votes for 35 possessions, and just right from the start to finish. He was the guy in starting a lot of what the Sydney team ended up with on the outside. So all those outside runners and an overlap handball, a lot of that started from Mills in the middle. So 3 to Mills, 2 to Hickey, 1 to Blakey.
That's a pretty good assortment for the Swans, and Callum Mills has really taken his game, as you mentioned during the call, Berkey, to a new level as in the midfield this year. What about the Christian medal? So the 3-2-1 as far as West Coast go.
Yes, so nothing for forwards and defenders for the West Coast Eagles. So I'm going to give Sheed 3 votes for 38 possessions. Kelly had 27, so I'll give him 2, and Elliot Yeo gets the 1 vote with 26 possessions.
It's a midfield that came under fire from Adam Simpson last week. I mean, they looked like they held up their end of the bargain reasonably well today, but
they only got votes because I have to. That's purely and simply. But I don't think there was a defender who really beat his opponent, and there was certainly not a forward on the field that beat his opponent. So even though the midfield was smashed, they get some cheap votes.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, if you just looked at the stats and you said Sheed had 37, Kelly 27, Yo 26, Hearn 24 off half back, you'd think, they did all right today, West Coast. But it was almost a 100-point defeat. Just watching James Rowbottom at the moment. He was the medical sub today, and we see this a lot now after games, where he will run probably for the best part of 40 minutes. And he's been out there, I reckon, for about 20 minutes so far, and he's just doing repeat sprints around the stadium at the moment with no one in the crowd and just the trainer egging him on. So how would you have gone being a medical sub back in the day, gents? Sitting on the bench, cold all day, down here in Geelong, wet and windy to start off with. You don't come on, and then you've got to go and run laps for the best part of 40 minutes.
The Rowbottoms are neighbours of ours in Hawthorn. It's quite interesting. And Dad's a pretty tough customer, I'll tell you what. This boy is living up to family expectations extremely well. Good kid and can play, and I think probably would have been in. I think this is more of a rotation, hoping that he could have a bit of a rest up because he's worked exceedingly hard and played some really tough, good footy along the way. He's going to be a player as well, so there's another one to add to the group.
And I mean, they've got, so you think of the players that aren't out there for Sydney today. So no Logan McDonald, no Braden Campbell, Rowbottom's not there, Chad Warner didn't play. They've got an embarrassment of riches in terms of some of those. I mean, McDonald's a key position player, but Campbell is a beautiful user of the footy when he sort of settles into that role. And then Warner, we know, has got a bit of a spark in the middle of the ground as well. So that they're not light on for talented young players. And we mentioned it earlier, but the job that John Longmire's done to turn this around and turn it around quickly, which is a very tough task, especially in today's footy, Parko, it's been pretty staggering, really.
Well, Joe, the discussion before the season got underway, no one that I think who knows something about the game, and the discussion across all teams, we talk about where they're going, I would have thought that 100% of those who think they know something about the game and follow AFL pretty closely would have thought, well, this is a year where they'll redevelop and consolidate, but there is very little, in fact no chance of them getting into the 8, and if they did creep in, they certainly would not be making an impact. I think that's been, well, in my mind, and I think most others, that's been changed dramatically by their performances, not just over the last month, which have been pretty consistent, but probably since about round 3 or 4. And that says something about the Sydney Football Club, which I do, certainly admire them enormously for the professionalism that they show and their consistency of performance over such a long period of time.
They have this incredible ability to get games into youngsters too without you really noticing. So someone like a Robbie Fox this afternoon, he'll play his 50th game in 6 rounds.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And, you know, it seems like last week he was making his debut. Jordan Dawson's another one who waited a long time to get his debut. He's now played over 50 games. And then today, you know, James Bettle will pop up in a couple of years and we'll think he made his debut a few weeks ago, and all of a sudden he will have played 50 games as well. So John Longmire, it's one thing I think he's almost underrated for, is playing those young kids. We always think of the Parkers and the Kennedys and those mainstays in the midfield. But getting those tiers of players in and getting them consistent exposure at the top level, but also making them wait to deserve their opportunity. It's one underrated thing about John Longmire, I think, that we don't really give him enough credit for.
And even today, we didn't really make a fuss over Kennedy or Parker.
Yep.
They were both really influential in the game, but it's a good sign when you've got superstars like that normally for the Swans to win by that big, you'd say they're superstars. But Buddy's kicked 8, and Parker's had 35, and Kennedy's had a dozen clearances and 20 contested possessions. They were good. Their numbers are probably good, but it wasn't them that really carried them over the line.
Can I say I actually enjoyed their method.
Yep.
I think it's an exciting method. They're trying to move it on. Often it's short and often it's diagonal or across the ground, whatever you know. But it's on and going. It's an excitement to watch, and I cannot say, looking back, that I thought Sydney over the last decade have been the most. I put my hand up to go to the MCG to watch Sydney play. Well, that wasn't going to be me. But I think if you gave me the opportunity now, I'd have my hand up and I'd be one of the first there, because they're an enjoyment, if you like, in the way that their football's presented.
We speak about embracing the time away from home too. Obviously, a few less COVID cases there in Sydney today, which was good news. I think it was around 16, so not in the 30s like it's been the last couple of days. The Swans have got the Dogs next week, so they'll be staying here for that one, of course. Then they've got GWS, but you'd assume that would probably still be played in Melbourne or at a different venue altogether, perhaps in Tasmania. After that, they've got Fremantle, which is due to be played at the SCG. So still a lot of unknown about their finish to the season too, with the COVID situation in Sydney. But you really have to say they're embracing it a lot more than what West Coast are, obviously, being on the road.
Yeah, it can't be much fun. I've got a son that works in the game, and the time away, the very point that you made, particularly amongst the older group with their families and commitments, etc., it's a real strain. And if that personal strain has any effect on you at all, and it would, psychologically you can't be in the best frame of mind to play the most demanding game in the world, and this game is still the most demanding game in the world to play. So we should have some empathy with those who are doing it hard. Yep. And there are plenty are, both on and off the field, to support our game in the way it is. I sat next to Gil McLaughlin, and he's aged about 20 years. I sat with him at the football yesterday, and what he's been through and the decision making of the league almost on a daily basis would take most of us we ended up in the bin down the corner.
Parko, Gil sat next to you.
Yes. let's make sure we get the hierarchy right in that discussion. Big win for Sydney here at Kardinia Park. 92 points it was for the Swans this afternoon. Parko, pleasure to be with you.
Oh, great to be back, boys. Yeah.
Perky, it was a strange old game. We didn't expect that, but it was good fun.
Good fun as always.
And you don't have to swim or walk home. That's a good result. Good to see you, Maisie. Thanks to Jules here pushing the buttons, to Tom and Aaron back in the studio. We'll try and get you something down the line for later in the day. If you're with us on ABC Radio, you're headed to the Bulldogs in North Melbourne with Alistair Nicholson and Jess Webster leading the call team. For the rest of you, you're headed to your regular programming. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.